Hi, everyone. We'll be starting in just a minute. We're still waiting for one commissioner to log on. Thank you.
Just an update for everyone. I received a text message from Commissioner LePage. She's just having a little technical issue. He'll be right with us.
Okay. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had a little technical problem there. I had to restart my computer. So past 4 o'clock. So I will call the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for November 10th to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Bolton?
Commissioner Bolton is going to be absent.
Thank you. Commissioner Delves?
Here.
Commissioner Lehman? Commissioner Lehman? Oh.
Her audio is just connecting right now, it looks like.
Okay.
But I do see her present, so we can count her as present.
Okay. And Commissioner Locke?
Here.
Chair LePage?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, before we start the meeting, I'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. We won't see you again until December. And so the first item on our agenda tonight are the public appearances. So anyone from the public at this time may address the Planning Commission on any items of municipal concern which are not on our agenda tonight. Is there anyone from the public who would like to address the Planning Commission regarding any item which is not on our agenda tonight? I don't see any hands going up. I don't hear anybody. So we will move on to the next item. Next item on the agenda tonight is consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine in nature and do not require discussion or independent action. Members of the commission or the public may request any item be pulled for explanation or discussion. There's 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. We have the Community Planning and Building Monthly Report. And item number 2 is minutes of the Planning Commission October 13th regular meeting. Is there anyone from the public or the commission that would like any of these items pulled for further discussion? I don't see any hands going up. I don't hear anybody. So if that's the case, can we have a motion from one of the commissioners to approve both items number 1 and number 2 of the consent agenda?
Yeah, I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I second that.
Okay, motion is made to approve both items on the consent agenda. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman? Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, that motion is carried. Okay, the next item on the public agenda is, the agenda is the public hearings. And the first item this evening is a design study. This is DS 21-220, the Greg project. This is consideration of a concept design study for a 1,006 square foot, two-story addition to a one-story, a 594 square foot historic, the Alfonso Ramirez cabin located on Santa Rita, 3 northwest of 3rd Avenue in the R1 district. Can we have the staff report, please?
There we go. Okay, thank you, Chair LePage. So the project before you this afternoon is a concept design study for the Greg project. The project site is a 4,000 square foot lot, and it contains a 594 square foot historic cabin, which is known as the Alfonso Ramirez cabin. It was constructed in 1888. Mr. Ramirez was a direct descendant of the Carmel Mission Indian groups. He was also a Carmel stage driver. So this cabin is historic, both for its association with Mr. Ramirez, as well as an excellent example of a late 19th century residential home in Carmel. The applicant is proposing a 1,006 square foot, two-story addition to the cabin at the rear of the property. Also repainting of the cabin and some site improvements. Because this is a historic resource, the project was reviewed by the Historic Resources Board at their October 18th meeting. The board added the cabin to the Carmel Register, in addition to it being on the Carmel inventory. They also issued a waiver of parking requirements and a determination of consistency with the Secretary's standards. So they reviewed the proposed addition and they expressed their support of the project with no special conditions. With respect to forest character, the city forester has identified 13 trees either on or immediately adjacent to the project site. Just a minor correction to the staff report, which stated that no trees are proposed to be removed. In actuality, trees number 9 and 10, which are circled in green, would be removed. That is would be the future location of the deck. Also proposed for removal is tree number 1 at the front of the property. And this tree is proposed to be removed by PG&E due to conflicts with the power lines. And that process is still underway with the city forester. So the existing cabin is 600 square feet, approximately. It's set back 27 feet from the front property line. The proposed addition at the rear would be 2 stories. It would be connected to the historic cabin with a hyphen. The square footage of the addition is 715 square feet on the ground floor and 291 square feet on the second floor. I'm going to speak first to the orientation of the project to the property to the north. So the setback distances that you see here, the addition would be 4 feet 3 inches from that side or north property line. The second floor addition would be 7 feet 10 inches with the exception of the internal stairway, which would be right at the 3 foot minimum setback. The second floor is also set back 15 feet from the rear property line. So with respect to the project's orientation or relationship to the residents to the north, on the second floor, there is only 1 window proposed. This window is a fixed window and it's located in bedroom 2. Staff did not anticipate there would be a privacy impact from this window. The commission had the opportunity to visit the neighbor's property today. And if the commission feels that there could potentially be an impact because the neighbor has a bedroom on that second floor, a special condition can be added to reorganize this particular window. Another window on the north elevation here is in the internal staircase. This is a very large window, and it does line up with windows on the north neighbor's property. Staff has proposed a special condition that the height of the window be reduced, the sill height increased, or look at potentially obscure glass to mitigate that impact. Staff is also recommending that the applicant undertake a solar or shade study just to evaluate the impacts that second story may have on the north neighbor's residence, since that is her south-facing elevation and where she gains a significant amount of natural light. And so if the commission adopts that special condition, that study would be completed prior to final details review. So with respect to the property to the south, the setback from the first floor addition would be 8 feet 6 inches to the south property line, 13 feet 10 inches to the second story, the proposed second story. And with respect to the south neighbor's window and their relationship to the project site, the windows on their north elevation are obscured. Another correction to the staff report indicated that there were no windows on the second floor. They're actually kind of hiding behind that ridge line. So there are a couple windows. Those also do appear to be obscure. Staff does not anticipate any significant privacy impacts, but we are recommending a special condition that some vegetation be planted along that south property line. And this will filter the views and ensure privacy both to the Greggs as well as to the south neighbor. The project does include a south-facing deck, so a small outdoor space. So privacy vegetation seems appropriate in this location. So with respect to the street view, you can see that the historic cabin largely obscures the addition. The most prominent view is going to be from the north. However, there's also some existing vegetation and some proposed vegetation that would also screen the addition. So the massing would not be significant from the public view. So with that, staff is recommending that the commission accept the concept design study with conditions. And those conditions include the standard condition that the applicant submit a landscape plan prior to final details, the window modification in the internal staircase, the privacy vegetation along the south property line, the shade study, grading and drainage plan, and then we'll also do the volume study prior to final details review. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Marnie regarding this application from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question.
Commissioner Lehman, is that you?
No.
No, it's, excuse me, it's Mrs. Daly on the south side.
Okay, go ahead.
I noticed under the recommendation, she read them all except parking pad material. I'm wondering why she skipped that one.
That is a special condition on the resolution that the parking pad material, the proposed gravel shall be removed and bark shall be replaced with that. That's an acceptable allowed material, bark, but the gravel isn't.
And the second thing was,
You want to add to that, Marnie?
So the viability of that parking pad is going to be contingent upon PG&E removing that tree. And PG&E does need to reach out to the city forester and get her authorization to remove that tree. So the parking pad is currently shown on the plans. If the tree is removed, then yes, staff is recommending that the gravel be replaced with bark chips. However, if the tree is not removed, there will be no parking space in that location.
okay. My concern was today when the,
Ms. Hudson, would you save your comments till later? Right now, we're just asking questions. During
Well,
the
this is-
public comments, you can make any comments you want.
this is a question.
All right, okay, your questions are fine.
And my name is Mrs. Daly. I'm using Mrs.
I'm sorry, I
Hudson.
just saw what's, all I can
Yeah,
see
I
on the phone.
understand.
Yeah.
I want to know why the committee did not come to my property today. I have a broken foot, a fractured rib. I mentioned to Marnie. I also called this morning and asked that they please come to my property so I could share my concerns. And yet I was totally ignored, and I consider that unacceptable behavior.
Okay, that's duly noted. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that had any questions for the staff regarding this application? And is there any of the commissioners have any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, would the applicant like to make their presentation at this time?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm Brian Congleton. I'm representing Don and Stacy Gregg, the owners of the property. I am the architect on the project, and we're proud and excited to bring this before you today. We've spent quite a bit of time working on how to sensitively address all of the constraints about this project. And let me quickly review what those constraints that we've had to address are. Number one is that the cabin is very historic. I mean, there's historic and there's very historic, and this cabin is very unique in how old it is, how it predates Carmel-by-the-Sea. It's really part of the old Carmel City development. And Marnie, for what it's worth, I just emailed you a photo that my client has, and it doesn't pertain to what we're doing, but I think it would be of interest to everyone if you can show that to them at some point. At any rate, constraint number one is that the cabin's very historic, and whatever we do needs to maintain the cabin and, as much as we can, the context that it's in. The second element, and Marnie, I would ask if you could go to sheet 2.1, the tree plan. The reason is that there are a number of significant trees on the property. There's a gorgeous cypress tree in the front, and on the south side, there are two large redwoods, as in 48-inch redwoods. And do we not have 1.2 as part of the packet that you have? All right, I'll go with this. This is
Sorry, did you want 1.2 or 2.1?
no, 1.2, please. Thank you. When you look at 1.2, the large circles around the trees are the required root zone protection areas. And we're not supposed to construct in those at all. As you know from Hansel and Gretel, which we did a couple of years ago, we did come up with the use of helical piers to address putting foundations under buildings without disturbing the root zone. And you see that on the neighbor's redwood to the right of the plan on the southeast, tree number 8, and on the two redwoods on the south side, trees 11 and 12. And those pushed the addition further back and to the north. The last constraint is the ordinance requirement that any second-story structure be at least 15 feet from the rear property line. And so we've done that, but that's pushed the second floor of the addition to the west. So that combination of things kind of pushed us into a northerly central area. I know there's been some discussion about whether or not this should be a one-story addition. It could, well, actually it couldn't be because of the trees. There's not sufficient site area to do a one-story addition. And I would go back to what Jean Grace said about 30 years ago when she was mayor and the council was dealing with volumetrics and floor area ratios. And her point was that an optimum house in Carmel for the least impact on site coverage and the least impact on volume would be a 2/3 first floor, 1/3 second floor. And this house has just about 30% on the second floor. And that reduces the site coverage that would happen if it were a one-story house. So I think it benefits and lessens the impact on the site to have the second story. In addition to which, if you had a one story that large, the roof might well be nearly as high as this second story is. So we did everything we could to separate the addition from the house by the hyphen, the link, and by putting screen landscaping between the house and the addition on that north side, so that persons viewing from uphill on the northwest see the landscaping, not the addition. And third, the addition is designed by distance. If you view the property from the southwest, you see a far distant addition and the near historic cabin. So that's the direction that we went. I too noted the potential impact of our stairwell on the north side. If need be, we're up for re-examining that stairwell. Certainly, we can eliminate the little window. I put a window seat there with a big window in it because I thought it would be nice, but it wouldn't be nice if it was looking right at the neighbor's kitchen window, and it wouldn't be nice for her either. So I think we can make that modification easily. That basically, I think, explains the way we went at the house. I think Marnie did a wonderful job presenting the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Brian from the commissioners?
Yes, I have a
Mr. Lehman?
question for Brian. Brian, when in looking at the drawing that you just had on the screen, I noticed that the typical circles we do are a 6-foot diameter around the tree trunk. But your circles, and of course it's a little harder because I would be measuring on my screen, and it's not to scale, but your circles look like they're about 30 feet.
24 feet.
24 feet. But,
yeah, and this is...
We've never talked about drip, if I may finish, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We've never talked about drip line before. We've only talked about a 6 feet, and that is in the building department regulation. So I'm wondering, when I looked at your plans, when I read your plans this week and weekend, when I was working on this, it didn't hit me until I was on the site today that I felt like the north neighbor does have an impact that's a little bit greater than it should be. And my feeling was to pull that second floor away from her house 1 or 2 feet, since there's so much room on the south. And I'm wondering, I'd like to ask you if that's an option. I understand what you did with the trees, but that's not a requirement. The requirement is only 6 feet and then to hand dig.
I may bow to Marnie on this, because the forester's report from the site assessment required that we do 6 inches for each 1 inch of tree diameter. So for a 48-inch diameter tree, we need 24 feet.
That's impossible on 99% of the Carmel lots.
Yeah, absolutely
if
right.
you had to go 24 feet in each direction, it's insane. We couldn't build anything.
Well, you can see the chart from the forester's report that Marnie just put up. Tree 11 is 24 feet. Tree 8 is 24 feet. So, yeah, I think that I was surprised at the larger diameter, and I don't know when this was enacted and become part of the ordinance, but we designed to it and we used the helical piers at in a minimum manner to actually extend over that root zone in several areas.
Well, you know that I'm aware of the extraordinary cost of the helical piers, and it seems unfair if our building standards are exactly what it says here: excavation within 6 feet of a tree trunk is not permitted. Period.
Right.
And I don't know if the new forester has come out with these numbers, but it wouldn't work. You just can't build under these circumstances, and you can see that what you're building interferes or intervenes in these massive circles. So I'm thrown, really. We probably
Commissioner Lehman, maybe we can let staff comment on this. We get a little more.
I'm happy to let them comment on it.
All right, thank you. Marnie, would you like to comment on this?
I will certainly do my best. So the excavation within 6 feet remains not permitted. So Commissioner Lehman is correct. That's in the code. That is not going to be modified. What the city forester has done is she has identified the actual structural root zone of these trees. So the root zone extends beyond 6 feet, and they are critical roots for the health and viability of the tree. So she's identified these zones, and these are areas that we want to pay particular attention to, minimal disturbance, make every effort to design around them. Certainly any work being done in that area needs to be done in a very careful manner. So she recommends using air spades. So it's a critical area for the survival of the tree, and that's why she has identified it. And that's probably the best explanation I can give.
Thank you, Marnie. Did you have any other questions, Commissioner Lehman?
Yes, I'd like to ask Marnie. But Marnie, I hear what you're saying, and I go back to the permits that have been given out this year and what has been approved by the Planning Commission. And typically we adhere to that 6-foot circle. So I think what you're talking about when she says when Brian has done these massive circles, they would only be it's a drip line of the tree, and beyond, if you have to get within the 6 feet, then the forester has been asking for air spade in order to dig there. But I've never seen a permit go out or a recommendation on any other project of a circle that's 24 feet in diameter. I mean, our lots are only 40 feet wide in most cases.
Well,
So
Mr. Chair, maybe I can try to clarify, because I think what I understand coming from Marnie, and Marnie, correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're kind of dealing with two circles here. The 6-foot circle is the no-fly zone. That's the do not excavate in the 6 foot. And I think what the forester is indicating here with these numbers is that between 6 feet and 24 feet, so those 18 feet there, those 18 feet are sort of like a danger zone. Like, doesn't mean that work cannot happen there. There just has to be extra care and caution put into those 18 feet. make up the circle. Marnie, am I correct on that? That's what Sarah's indicating to you in this?
Yes. Because you would expect to find significant roots that are critical to the survival of the tree within that structural root zone.
And so it could be perhaps Commissioner Lehman, and for us, the commission, perhaps what we can do is next time around, we can ensure that on the plans or any notes from the forester that's better communicated, so it doesn't feel like this 24-foot no-fly zone around a tree. Because I take your point, Commissioner Lehman, that we have small 4,000 square foot lots, and if you couldn't get within 24 feet of a tree at all, that could pose a problem for development. The city might be looking at some takings issues and things like that. But I think the intention here was 6 foot no fly. The 18 feet out to that 24-foot line is more of a danger zone, just high notice, high caution zone.
Thank you for the help with that. Excuse me. But I'd like to go back to the architect and talk about the possibility that this addition seems to be pretty weighty to the north neighbor. And since there's so much setback on the south side, I'm wondering if there's a possibility that you could move it a foot or two to the south. The second story.
The second story, yes. Yes.
I think that's the most intrusive.
Yeah, and I think of the second story, I think the critical element is the stairwell. Because in order for us to get the 2 bedrooms upstairs, it forced the stairwell into that corner and pushed it out of the envelope of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've already talked about the neighbor's concern. We don't want to impact the neighbor any more than necessary. And I think we will be able to help solve that problem at the second story level.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
Okay, are there any other questions for the architect?
Could we see the diagram with the circles on it around the trees one more time, please? Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think we'll move on to the public's comments at this time. This time, members of the public who would like to make comments regarding this application can do so. Before we go any further, just wanted to kind of set the rules here. I should have done that earlier. The applicants typically have 5 minutes to make their presentation. The public's comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and the applicant will be allowed a rebuttal of 3 minutes at the end of the public comments. So at this time, would any members of the public like to make their comments? Raise your hand. There's a button at the bottom there. You can raise your hand. I see.
You haven't enabled that button.
I think pardon?
You did not.
I see Mrs. Daly. I think Ms. Daly put your hand up. Is that
Yes, I did.
correct? All right, you have the floor, Ms. Daly, for 3 minutes.
To the tree issue first, the
You have the
roots,
floor for 3 minutes.
excuse me. Thank you.
All right.
The trees on the south side, the roots are under my house, and that needs to be evaluated as to future structural damage. Let me begin by saying how abhorrent and deplorable it is that we're gathered here tonight to discuss the project. Every one of us.
Ms. Daly, we can't hear you.
Back me up for 3 minutes.
I'll give you extra time. We had trouble hearing you there. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Let me begin by saying how abhorrent and deplorable it is that we're gathered here tonight to discuss a project that each and every one of us knows should not be approved in its current proposal, as it violates many of the standards, rules, and regulations that dictate and govern the rehabilitation of the historic property. It has been designed and approached from the beginning with total disregard of its history as well as privacy and solar protection of the adjacent properties. It was erroneously characterized in the platform as positive development without any negative feedback from the neighbors. It was clandestine from the start, misrepresented owners and fed into the chain of Carmel entrepreneurs. I ask you to listen and hear my concerns as documented in the research submitted to Marnie. Honor your duty to preserve and protect our heritage.
I'm sorry, can we please have her speak to the microphone?
Ms. Daly, we can't hear you.
All right,
I don't know if did you.
where did you lose me?
Mrs. Daly, we need you to keep your mouth closer to the microphone. Every time you move to the side, we lose your audio.
All right. Sorry, I'm new at this.
That's all right. We'll give you enough time to get through your what you want
You
to.
want me to start completely over?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Start over. We'll start you 3 minutes again.
That should look better.
Thank you for your help. My concern is not really the code violations. My concern is the violations as to how this development fits into a pristine historical property, as mentioned by one of your commissioners, as to its value to the community. It exceeds the 2% as stated in the rules and preservation. It was recommended to be a single story by Clovis. It's humongous in size, dwarfing the property and dwarfing the historic presence of the cabin. Let me begin by saying how abhorrent and deplorable it is that we're gathered here tonight to discuss a project that each and every one of us knows should not be approved in its current proposal, as it violates many of the standards, rules, and regulations that dictate and govern the rehabilitation of historic property. It has been designed and approached from the beginning with total disregard of its history, as well as privacy and solar protection of the adjacent properties. It was erroneously characterized in the Pinecone as a positive development without any negative feedback from the neighbors. It was clandestine from the start, misrepresented by the owners, and fed into the chain of Carmel entrepreneurs. I ask you to listen and hear my concerns as documented in my research submitted to Marnie. Honor the duty to preserve and protect our heritage as you've committed. Stand by the existing standards. Speak up with integrity and preservation authority. Do not let Carmel history fall into the index of the journals of history, but find its place in the table of contents of time. This structure shrouds the cabin in darkness. It exceeds the size standards. It swallows up all of the property, creates parking issues on the street, and is sitting on a spring that floods the adjacent properties. Honor your integrity and honesty, and require that modifications enhance history, not destroy it. It's been approached as to how can we get a waiver for everything we want to do, rather than how can we sustain the heritage of Carmel by adjusting our plans to enhance this beautiful cabin that is a historic icon for all of us to love forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daly.
Hi, I'm Judy Marquardt. I live just north of the cabin. I've lived there 30 years. I continue to be extremely concerned as to the impact this project will have on my access to sunlight. During your tour of the properties this afternoon, you may have noticed that I'm already in a shady hollow. What little solar access I now have will be blocked by the second story, and most particularly will be blocked during the winter time. The special condition requiring a shade study is greatly appreciated. I can only hope that the results of this study will be given careful consideration before this project is allowed to go forward. Yes, my home is 2 stories and is on land once owned by the same Carmel Mission Native Americans who long ago occupied the Gregg's cabin My house was built in the 1970s, but is situated so as to not tower over their cabin nor block anyone's sunlight. I would ask the Planning Commission to send this project back to the proverbial drawing board and direct the architect to scale the structure down to 1 story, a size more compatible with the historic cabin. I hope all of you don't mind me requesting that you ask yourselves, is approving an addition with the maximum allowable square footage really in the best interest of this historic resource? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marquardt. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application?
I can't hear.
I don't hear anyone. I don't see any hands going up. Okay, would the architect like to take 3 minutes to make any more comments or rebut?
I'll just briefly respond to the comments that were made by both neighbors. First, regarding what Mrs. Daly called a violation of all the rules of historic property. When you look at the Secretary of Interior standards, the standards are only rules for properties that are either federal properties or federally funded projects. When that ceases to be the standard, then all the rules become guidelines. And I take a bit of umbrage at, that I did not have any sensitivity about the cabin, that we're throwing away the history in what we're proposing to do. It's probably best I just not go any further with that. And I explained earlier why we think that the 2-story solution is a better solution for the site and for the user, obviously, and for the historic cabin than a 1-story addition, because it provides distance to the rear and it keeps the cabin in its own context. So based on that, I think we definitely stand by our desire to stay with the 2-story. Regarding Ms. Marquardt's concerns about access to sunlight and invasion of privacy, we see those concerns. I met with both neighbors last week. Ms. Marquardt showed me through her house, and I looked at our proposed project from her windows, and we're prepared to make design modifications as necessary to address those concerns. So we look for input from the commission on exactly how you would like us to do that. I think we're kind of locked in terms of our read of the tree roots, the second floor setback, the distance from the cabin in terms of where the 1st story would be, and we will do what we can regarding the 2nd story. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, are there any other questions for Brian at this time from the commissioners? Okay, I'm going to close the public. Oh, I see a hand up. Is it Stacy Gregg? Would you like to make some comments? You need to unmute yourself, Stacy. I don't know if I have the correct name, but.
Yes.
Yes, sorry about that. I did not
Right.
mean to. I thought I was prepared in doing that. I apologize.
No problem.
I just wanted to add that I believe our architect, Brian, has done beyond an exceptional job in addressing our concerns in regards to what we felt might be neighbors' concerns. And in keeping with that, we very much want to preserve the history of the cabin. That was something that caught my eye from the day we were absolutely ready to purchase this amazing place in Carmel. I can also add that I was born Stacy Michelle Ramirez in 1968 from my father, who is a third generation Fortunato Ramirez. And while it's no relation to the Alfonso Ramirez that I know of, I think that it was definitely some sort of sign when we purchased this. And my husband and I are just enamored with the property. We absolutely want to do whatever we can to keep the integrity of this cute little cabin. And in addition, for our family, add on to the house that we can to hopefully have this for many, many years to come. So I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Gregg. Okay, are there any other members from the public that would like to make any comments at this time to the Planning Commission? I don't see any, so I'm going to close the public comments and open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to start?
Certainly, I'd be glad to. I think I've laid it out pretty well. I have great respect for Brian and his work. And I only feel like the north neighbor is impacted a little too much. And as he said, it happens where the stairwell is, where it should be a 7-foot setback on that side. It drops down to 3 with the stairwell. So if that can be relocated or moved, or the whole second story can shift just a little bit, I think I feel comfortable with what has been done, other than what I've just repeated several times. I always feel like the advantage of a second story on a house, especially a small amount, which is really just a small amount of square footage, but it eases the burden on the land, because that means there's more land left and as open yard, so it makes it a more livable house and less infringing upon the site. I know a lot of people only want a single story house, and I've always lived in a 2-story house, which is what I prefer. So, but as a member of the commission, I see the difference in leaving some land open on these small 4,000 square foot lots. So I don't have any objection to having the second story. I would just like it shifted a little bit away from the north neighbor. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Locke, would you like to make your comments?
Sure. I agree with the comments made by Commissioner Lehman. I do want to note, though, that this is not taking up the maximum allowable square footage. The proposal 1,600 square feet, the maximum is 1,800 square feet. I think Brian Congleton has been thoughtful in his design of the project. It's not visible from the street, which is where the people who visit our town and see what our houses and whatnot look like, that's what they're seeing. They're seeing a cabin. They're not seeing this addition in the back. I think moving the addition to the south slightly would be beneficial. And no, Brian, I think this is a nice project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Delves, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, I think I'm arriving pretty much in the same place. I do want to start by stating to Ms. Hudson, Daly, that I know Michael and I were in your yard and starting to come towards your front door. And what I thought I heard you say was to please stop, and you didn't want us any closer. and maybe I misunderstood you, but with COVID, if someone asked me to leave, I'd leave. So we certainly meant, I'll speak for myself, I certainly meant no disrespect by not coming further. And I can assure you that the members of this commission, I'm still the newest one, do really try to understand the perspective of neighbors when we do our site visit. And we did at least get to stand along the side of the fence there on the south side of this and understand the distances between the proposed addition and your home. So again, apologize if you felt disrespected in any way. I do think the Historic Resource Board got this one right. I think, well, sorry, it doesn't mean to sound like a surprise. I think one of our jobs is to respect the decisions of that board because they have the knowledge, the tools, the experience, the methodology, and the available expertise to basically, provide judgments on the historic ramifications of any additions or modifications to historic properties. So I think we tend to start by embracing that. And in this case, I do think they left, that Brian has left the cabin pretty much alone and expanded the use as a residence. So it's and, not or. And I often think that as we deal with historic structures, we need to take an and, not an or approach, because sometimes if we just say no, we can, we enable the properties to fall into disrepair. So I think we always have to understand that enabling new or expanded uses actually helps these properties remain historic. So that's a lot of just background on how I got here. End of the day, in terms of the form of this addition, I'm with my colleagues that I would like to see the sunlight thing. I do think the single biggest impact of this project is on the neighbor to the north, and that we need to see some modifications and studies to understand how to maximize the solar exposure for that neighbor, or optimize, maybe is the better word. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Delves. I just want to say some general comments. I think Commissioner Delves kind of covered the issue about visiting the house. We got the impression that the owner didn't want us to come in, and I apologize if we misunderstood. Maybe her concerns were different than we were perceiving them. This process of reviewing all of these projects that we do, it is a transparent process. It is a public process. We allow all the public members, anybody, to come in and make comments on these projects. And this project has already been reviewed by the Historic Resources Board for consistency with the Secretary of Interior standards for additions and changes to historic structures. We're now having this is a concept. This is not the final. This is a concept. So there's a lot of opportunity for the public input. There's no hidden agenda here. Everybody I know on this commission and all the staff and the architect want to hear everybody's concerns and try to do the best job we can to come up with the best project that will meet the requirements of this particular application. So having said that, I think the problems with the application have been identified well by staff. There are obviously some impacts of privacy and possible solar impacts to the property on the north. And Commissioner Lehman has I think, brought some good discussion about the trees. I appreciate that the city forester is trying to protect the structural root zone of our trees. She's given us a report in the past and told us that the drip line typically is the minimum perimeter of where these trees put their roots out. And any type of development on those areas can impact the health of the trees. So it is appreciated that she is expanding the definition of that for applicants. It's appreciated that the architect has tried to take that and design a project which will not impact the trees. And within that context, we also have to look at the impacts on the neighbors. So the staff has done a good job of identifying the impacts there, the stairwell. And I think Commissioner Lehman has given the applicant some direction as far as, and the other commissioners about, let's look at the possibility of moving this a little further to the south. So I think that's all the direction I heard from everybody, unless any other commissioners want to bring up anything that I didn't summarize there. And I think in that context, I think we're ready to make a motion. I brought up the resolution here. Let me see if I can get over to that.
I'm happy to make that motion for you if you'd like.
Okay, well, let me just give me a second here. I'm going to go over the special conditions, Commissioner Lehman. So the special conditions for approval are, number one, the landscape plan. So that's prior to final, they'll come up with a landscape plan. Special condition number two addresses the staircase window, north elevation, second floor. Says prior to final details review, the applicant shall reduce the height of the oriel window in the staircase and increase the sill height or install obscured glass to mitigate potential privacy impacts. I think the Planning Commission is also going to give direction as far as looking at the possibility of moving that further to the south. Special condition number three is privacy vegetation. That's privacy vegetation to be planted along the south perimeter to mitigate impacts to the south. Four is a shade study. Prior to the final review, applicant shall undertake a shade study to determine the degree of which a second story addition will obstruct light or solar. This can obviously affect the design, and the applicant, I hope, will take that into their consideration for redesign. Special condition number five is a parking pad material. This is about eliminating the gravel if they are able to have a parking pad, which is contingent upon removal of that tree. Six is grading and drainage plan, and seven is the volume study. So with that, Commissioner Lehman, you want to go ahead with your motion?
Sure. I move for concept approval on DS 21-220 Greg for a 1,006 square foot, 2-story addition to the 1-story, 594 square foot historic Alfonso Ramirez cabin located on Santa Rita 3 northeast of 3rd in the R1 district. I, along with the special conditions and the addition of the shade study and the architect's agreement to look at moving the second story to the south to accommodate the privacy and solar impact on the north neighbor.
Commissioner Lehman, do you want to make that stronger language? Do you want to make the make a direction that the architect must move it to the south, or do you? It kind of sound like you're making it as discretion.
No, I think it has to move. You're absolutely right. I think it has to move to the south, and I felt like I had gotten a confirmation from Brian that he could possibly do that by relocating the stairs. And
okay, so your motion was going to be that it should be moved to the south.
Right.
Right.
So, do you need me to go through the special conditions, or you've already done that?
Special conditions that you want to add?
No, the special condition
so as it stands, the special condition you are adding is that it shall be moved to the south.
Right.
The amount to be determined by the architect.
Well, I would say at least the width of that stairwell, which is about a little over 3 feet. Is that correct, Brian? You're muted. Brian, you're muted.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. All right, that's it.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution as presented by staff with the addition of the special condition that the the addition, the stairwell should be moved to the south, and the windows shall be reduced in height as per the special conditions of staff.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Before you go ahead with that,
Can we, wait, Brian, we'll have discussion. I'll call for some discussion. Let me see if we get a
Okay.
second. Do we have a
Thank you.
second on this motion?
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, we have okay. So, Brian, go ahead.
yes, the only clarification I want to make regarding Commissioner Lehman's additional special condition is I don't see us moving the first floor of the stairwell to the south. It's the massing, the second floor, that we can move to the south. I just wanted to
Yes.
clarify that.
Yes, I think that's the biggest concern.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second story, the motion covers the second story only, moving to the south.
Right.
All right. Okay, is there any further discussion on this motion? All right, give a roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our public hearings tonight is a use permit. This is use permit 21-149. It's the Carmel Boutique business. It's a consideration of a use permit for the establishment of a cosmetic store located on Ocean Avenue, 2 northeast of Dolores Street in the commercial zone. Can we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the subject site are cosmetics, excuse me, I'll start over. Cosmetic stores are a retail store as a primary use selling cosmetics, perfumes, skincare products, toiletries, and other personal grooming products. Cosmetic stores are permitted in the central commercial and service commercial zoning districts with the issuance of a conditional use permit. The existing business is a legal non-conforming business as a use permit is currently required. However, the previous tenant was also a cosmetic store, so this the subject business is currently legal non-conforming as it's able to continue as a continuation of the previous use. The first cosmetic store was established in February 2016 as Ocean Skincare. In March 2017, Carmel Beauty Boutique was established at this location. Around the same time, an ordinance was adopted by the City Council that required a conditional use permit for cosmetic stores. And then in April of this year, a business license for a change in ownership was submitted for Carmel Boutique, which is why we are considering this use permit at this time. So the approval of the use permit application would remove the non-conforming designation. Whether the use permit is approved or denied, the business would be able to continue either as a conforming use operating under a conditional use permit, or if it's denied, it would be able to continue as a legal non-conforming use as a continuation of the prior use. So approval would mean that this is a legally established conforming use, again, operating with conditions of approval. So the business is proposing the sale and display of skincare and beauty products. They've also indicated that they would like to perform facials as well as distribute samples. Some of the land use regulations pertaining to cosmetic stores are that all merchandise and activity shall be contained within an enclosed shop or business space. And then again, also that they are permitted in the central commercial and service commercial districts with the issuance of a use permit. Despite having this land use regulation codified, staff has included condition of approval number 8 that states business merchandise and business activity shall be contained within the enclosed business space. The enclosed business space is defined as the interior floor area of the tenant space as identified in attachment 4 of the Planning Commission staff report, as well as Exhibit A that was included as part of the resolution. No business operation is permitted outside of the enclosed business space, including but not limited to solicitation of business and distribution of samples. So again, this is language from the municipal code, but it's just been included as a condition of approval as well. The applicant has also indicated they like to perform facials. According to the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, aesthetics is the practice of giving facials, as well as a few other things you can see in the red box. According to the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, aesthetic services may be legally performed only in by state licensed estheticians and state licensed salons and barbershops. So this business is not a state licensed salon or barbershop. They would be required to submit what's called a establishment license. So anyone performing the facial would be required to be licensed, as well as the location they are giving the facial would also need to be licensed by the state. A little bit different, though, is that demonstrations, when no compensation is received, that does not require a license or permit from the state board. So condition of approval number 9 has been included, stating that any person hired to work on behalf of the business is not permitted to engage in the practice of cosmetology or aesthetics, as the business is not a state licensed salon. If the business would like to propose this type of use in the future, they can submit for a use permit amendment, as well as proof of a establishment license. And then condition of approval number 10 has stated that any person hired by the business as an independent contractor, also known as a 1099 employee, shall obtain and maintain an in and about business license for the duration of their employment. And this is similar to, say, a hairstylist working in a salon or barbershop who doesn't own the salon, but they rent a chair. They are also required to obtain an in and about license, so that this is just a similar requirement to that. And then it's some additional requirements. This mostly pertains to the business license. The initial business license and use permit were submitted under the name Carmel Spa, and the name was changed to Carmel Boutique following a correction letter. The municipal code requires that no business license shall be approved or issued by the Department of Community Planning and Building in any name that would tend to mislead the public as to the type of business or the products being offered for sale. So the name was required to be changed, as the business is a retail store and not a spa, and spas are also prohibited in anywhere in the city. Condition of approval number 11 has been included, stating the owner shall have the full name of the business, Carmel Boutique, prominently displayed on and within the business. The purpose of that is to not mislead the public or city regarding the name of the establishment. And condition of approval number 13 has been included, stating that a fictitious business name statement shall be filed with Monterey County. And then condition of approval number 12 requires an updated seller's permit. Again, these are all just corrections to the business license application, but have been included as conditions of the use permit in an effort to expedite the process. 2 additional changes to the conditions of approval. These are standard conditions that were just left off by accident. So in your motion, should you choose to adopt a resolution for approval, would be to add condition number 15, which is described on the screen, and also modify condition of approval number 3 to the following language. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a use permit for the establishment of a cosmetic store. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from staff, from the commissioners? I don't see any. Oh, Commissioner Block, do you have a question? Just coming, getting your video up. Okay, thank you, Evan. We appreciate your staff report. Would the applicant at this time like to address the Planning Commission? Is the applicant here?
Erez or Omri, this would be your time to speak if you would like to say something.
Yes, I'm Erez. Hi. Basically, I'm really happy to do business in Carmel and to manage the store in the right way it need to be. We are a retail store. We basically are doing demonstration inside the store, and that's all. Not too much to say.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the planning commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up. Guess we don't have any. Do we have any callers in tonight? Let's see, we have a few.
Just a reminder for those that are on a phone, if you'd like to speak, you can unmute yourself by hitting *6. That'll unmute your phone. If you'd like to raise your hand when you're on your phone, you can hit *9. Mr. Chair, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand or unmute themselves on a phone. I do see that Omri has unmuted, but I don't know if he would like to speak.
Basically, Erez said everything. I just want to mention that we are under new management and we do the best to give the best customer service to our local customers and to tourists that come to visit the Carmel. And we will commit to customer service and to satisfied customers.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think that's, I don't see any more people unmuting. I don't see any hands up. So I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Dells, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to approve this use permit. I think the public input that has come from some pertains more generically to some of the practices employed by employees, salespeople of perhaps the previous version of this store, as well as others on Ocean Avenue, of actively hawking product in the public right of way. And I think it's clear in this use permit that that's not allowed. And beyond that, I don't think it's a planning commission matter. It's a matter of enforcement. And I believe the point's been made that violations of that or other conditions of this use permit are grounds for the cancellation of the permit. In fact, I'll let Evan, if that's wrong, please correct me, but that's my understanding. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Dells. Commissioner Locke, would you like to make some comments?
Sure. Well, I understand that our current situation somewhat has our hands tied a bit, but I am very concerned with the ongoing and future enforcement of this type of a business. If anybody read the October 29th Pine Cone, Jenny McMurdo, who's CEO of the Carmel Chamber of Commerce, had a lengthy article in there about the sales tactics, the questionable and aggressive sales tactics of these businesses. I myself have been approached outside of the business by salespeople offering samples, and doing samples makes me very uncomfortable. One of the situations, staff provided us with a list of complaints, both to the city code enforcement and to the police department. For these types of businesses, there are a number of complaints. This is an ongoing issue. I am extremely concerned about the effect that these types of sales tactics have on visitors to our community. I know I walk around, I try to stay away from the doorways. So I hope the management is really truly changing. Code enforcement can't be there all the time, so obviously they can't watch. I would love to reduce or eliminate the hustle and the hassle that's been going on. I understand that, and I believe this is true, that this current applicant has other businesses in other areas. My online research has shown that there are issues with these types of businesses in Southern California, Florida, and elsewhere. And like I said, my concern is our visitors and our public, and how this potentially affects how people see our downtown community. So, while I think that this project will go forward, I'm hopeful staff will come forward with some future way that we can reduce the high pressure sales, and perhaps help to reduce the issues and complaints that people are getting, both code enforcement and at the police department.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I think Commissioner Locke really said what I would have said, and I'm in total agreement with her. I feel like I avoid walking down that side of Ocean Avenue to avoid being harassed. I don't like people at the doorway. I don't like them offering samples. I think the business should be done inside their doors. And as Commissioner Locke said, it makes her uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. At one point, we had cosmetic stores on each side of Ocean Avenue, so it was hard to get away from them. I've read the police reports on the people that have been gouged and have been taken in by this business. So I don't know if the city has the capability of enforcement, but I think enforcement is really critical right now for in order to approve this business. And that's really it. I don't want to keep reiterating what's already been said.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. This type of business has a terrible history. And I want the applicants to understand that this is a conditional use permit. We can review this business at any time based upon violations or complaints. Now, I don't know these gentlemen. They may be good businessmen, but this type of business has a bad history. We don't want it in our community. And it isn't just the hawking from the doorways, the carnival-like barker. It's also the high pressure tactics that happens in the business. Mm-hmm. People have been bilked into thousands of dollars worth of worthless cosmetics by these types of businesses. Now, I'm not saying that this business is that type of business, but what I am saying is that we don't want that type of business here. And I am instructing staff, and I think all the other commissioners will back me up on this. If we start to receive any amount of complaints from this business, this is coming back to the Planning Commission for review. Mm-hmm. Now, I may sound harsh, but I want to be harsh. This is a warning. We don't want this type of business in our community. Carmel should be a wonderful experience for its visitors and its residents, not some high pressure carnival barking type of atmosphere. These businesses have been around long enough. Everybody's had experience with these types of businesses, and it's always an unpleasant experience. So yes, I'm warning these applicants. I'm willing to approve this application, but I want them to know that we're going to be watching them. If there's any violations whatsoever that have to do with high pressure or barker type atmosphere, they're going to be back here, and their use permit is going to be rescinded. So that's what's going on here. Commissioner Locke, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I also want to comment on the floor plan that was submitted. The floor plan shows a treatment room. And I think that until you actually have a license from the Board of Barbering and Cosmetology, that there should be absolutely no treatments taking place. There should be no, anyway, and I know that's one of the conditions, but the floor plan does show the treatment room.
is it Ezra?
Yeah, Ares. Yeah, Ares.
Mr. Ares.
Okay, I'm gonna answer the commission. Basically, the treatment room, it's not to do a facial, it's just to do demo. Some customers don't like to do demonstration like in the middle of the store, so they want a privacy room. So this is why we use this room to the privacy of the customer. And also, I just want to let you know, guys, that I have by myself 16 locations in a really high quality places like Laguna Beach, Newport Beach, and I never had any issue with customer and stuff like that. It's a new management. I send Omri to Carmel to manage everything and to make sure that everybody is on the spot. And like he said, we're gonna make sure that all customers gonna be happy. No hawking. We're working absolutely different from any other stores in the street. And in the last a year or two, I didn't receive even one complaint to one customer or anything, because we changed everything to the good way and trying to bring this business to the right business and plan that we have.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I think the applicant needs to understand that treatments have to be conducted by licensed cosmetologists. There's a very narrow definition here about this application of samples. So, and this is going to be a heavily conditioned, approval. So
yeah.
they have a chance. You have a chance here to rehabilitate the image of this type of business. There's obviously been a lot of bad business practices by this type of business. So your opportunity here is to rehabilitate it and bring it to the Carmel business community and make it part of the business community that is enhances the experience for our visitors and our local community. Okay, let's take a look at the resolution here. Okay, other than the standard conditions for approval, we have a number of special conditions. Special condition number 8 is business merchandise and business activities shall be contained within the enclosed business space. The enclosed business space is defined as the interior floor area of the tenant space as identified in attachment 4 of the Planning Commission staff report. No business operations permitted outside the enclosed business space, including but not limited to solicitation of business and distribution of samples. Number 9, the business or any person hired to work on behalf of the business is not permitted to engage in practice of cosmetology or aesthetics, as the business is not a stated licensed salon. Should the business become licensed by the state in the future, the applicant may submit an application for the use permit amendment for the consideration and inclusion of these types of additional use and primary retail cosmetic sales use. Number 10, salespersons, any persons hired by the business owner as independent contractors, 1099 employees shall obtain and maintain an in and business license for the duration of the employment. It shall be the business owner's responsibility to ensure all independent contractors have obtained their in and about business license prior to commencement of their employment. Special condition number 11, the owner shall have full name of the business, Carmel Boutique, prominently displayed on and within the business, acceptable locations in but are not limited to exterior signage. The name of the business shall be prominently displayed as to not mislead the public or the city, shall as to the name of the establishment as stated on the associated business license. Number 12, within a 30-day of approval, the use permit, the applicant shall provide a corrected California seller's permit for the subject business location. Number 13, the applicant shall submit evidence of a fictitious business name application with the Monterey County within 30 days of approval. That name is Carmel Boutique. And special condition number 14 is all modifications made to the exterior of the building, including but not limited to paint, windows, treatments, awnings, signage, paving, landscaping, shall first require written approval by the Department of Community Planning and Building. No notice attracting features such as banners, balloons, streamers, lights, additional signs, or flags shall be installed without written approval from the city. Okay, that is the resolution that we have.
Chair, may I add something briefly?
Yes, go ahead.
I also have the recommended
Oh, I'm sorry,
condition
yeah.
addition as well as modifications.
Right, we also have special condition number 15. Is that the one you're referring to, Evan? And number 3?
Yes, that's correct. Just to read that into the record if you so choose to
Okay,
adopt those.
so special condition number 3, this use permit shall become void and of no further force or effect if the use is not initiated within 6 months and or upon termination or discontinuation of the use for any period of time exceeding 6 months. Special condition number 15, upon termination or revocation of this use permit or business license for any reason, the use shall immediately cease and shall not be reestablished without issuance of a new use permit. Okay, those are the special conditions. In that context, do we have a motion to accept the resolution as presented by staff?
I'll make that motion, Michael, to adopt a resolution approving a use permit UP 21-149 Carmel Boutique for the establishment of a cosmetic store located on Ocean Avenue, 2 northeast of Dolores. And included in that resolution would be to add condition number 15 and modify condition number 3 as suggested by staff.
Okay. Do we have a second to the motion?
I second that.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to accept the resolution as per staff with the added and modified special conditions as stated by the motion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item on our public hearing tonight is a design study. This is item number 5 on the public hearing. This is a DS 21-189, the Malamud project. This consideration of a combined concept and final design study and associated coastal development permit for the construction of 193 square foot ground floor bedroom addition to the rear of an existing single family residence, as well as the demolition of a 476 square foot decking and exterior stairs. The project's located on Santa Fe Street, 2 southwest of Ocean Avenue, and it's in the single family residential zone. Can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the subject site is a 4,000 square foot lot developed with a 1,407 square foot residence, as well as a 200 square foot parking pad. The applicant is proposing to construct a 193 square foot addition to the rear of the residence, as well as remove 476 square foot of decking and stairs. The site contains a number of trees. There's 1 significant Monterey cypress partially located in the right-of-way, 5 significant coast live oaks, 1 significant acacia, and 1 significant pittosporum. There's 1 moderately significant pittosporum, and then 1 non-significant acacia and 1 non-significant oak. The non-significant oak is proposed for removal. That's in the area of addition. And a condition of approval number 9 has been included that requires a tree removal permit prior to the tree being taken out. The forestry department has also recommended planting 1 upper canopy tree or 1 lower canopy tree. That's of the applicant's choosing. And that requirement, as well as a performance standard, has been included as condition of approval number 25. So the proposed project does meet all standards for privacy views, mass and bulk, building and roof form, as well as finished materials. The addition is located under an existing 2nd-story deck, and any privacy impact associated with the deck is now eliminated. The new addition does not present any privacy impacts. There are 2 windows, 1 on the north side, 1 on the west side. Neither of those pose any new privacy impacts. The addition is only 193 square feet and is compatible with the existing building. and all materials throughout are proposed to match the existing. Condition of approval number 14 has been included, stating that new wood windows shall be used. Condition of approval number 26 has been included, that states all the materials, colors, and finishes shall match. And then the only modification to the building itself is condition of approval number 27, which refers to the minimum setback. Sorry, I'm trying to find my laser pointer. This wall right in here is currently non-conforming. It encroaches a couple inches into the minimum side setback. So condition of approval number 27 has been included, that the wall of the new addition be set back so it's outside of the 3-foot minimum setback. So that would be the only design change. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution approving a combined concept and final design study. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff from the commissioners?
No. Not at this time. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Would the applicant like to make their presentation at this time? The applicant or the applicant's representative here?
I thought I just saw him.
I think that's me, Evan, huh?
Oh, yeah, there you are.
Okay.
How's it going? I'm Mark with Monterey Design Center. Chad was not able to make it today, so I'm representing the Design Center on behalf of Barbara and Mike Malamet. Thanks for your time and considering this project. I don't think I actually have anything else to add to Evan's presentation, and it's just a small remodel we're trying to do for Malamet's, and yeah, we appreciate your consideration.
Yeah, are there any questions for the applicant from the commissioners?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lagonis? Is that
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you. Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? I don't see any hands going up. I don't see anybody unmuting. If you want to address this, you need to push *6.
John Wolf has raised his hand.
Okay, John, would you like to address the commission?
I just have a question. It appears there's a fireplace added. Is that a gas fireplace or wood burning fireplace?
Mark, do you want to answer that question?
Again, this is not my project per se, but I believe it is a wood burning fireplace. Evan, do we know that?
I'm flipping through the plans. I don't believe a fireplace is being added. On one of the elevations, the fireplace didn't come in, or the chimney didn't come in very clear.
Yeah. They're not adding a fireplace.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. That might clarify. So the chimney right in here, I think just in the drawing didn't come through very clearly. But if I continue to the project plans, you can see the first floor plan. This is the existing. You have the fireplace here. Again, still right here. It's on. Yeah, again, I don't believe that this is new. I think just the drawing didn't come through clearly.
That's correct. It is. The fireplace is existing.
Okay. John, does that answer your question?
Is it wood burning or gas?
I've never been inside the home. I'm not sure if it's wood burning or gas. It's existing.
Yeah, because it's existing. I don't think we have that information.
The original fireplace was wood burning. I don't know if it has been converted to only gas, but there was a gas line to it, if that is of any help.
Okay, John, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Does anyone else from the public who'd like to address the Planning Commission? I don't see any hands up. They'll be unmuting. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open up to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to begin?
Well, I have a particular fondness for the house because it was mine, but it's been many, many years since it was mine. But I did own it for about 10 years or so, and which is why I knew about the fireplace. But I sold it around the late 80s, so it's a long time ago. I'm kind of sad that they're having to take off the upper deck because there is such a great ocean view up there, and it was a great house, but it was a wonderful house. It was an incredibly happy house. We had lots and lots of parties there, and just a great amount of people. We were all a lot younger then, and it was a lot of fun. So we did a lot of dancing in that living room, and it was very good. So I wish them well.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Commissioner Locke, would you like to make your comment?
Sure. This is, as we've said, is a fairly small and thoughtful project. I don't know how you would have any issues with it. So minimal, it has no effect on neighbors. And yes, I sympathize with the loss of the deck view for somebody. But no, I think it's a fine project.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Dells, would you like to make some comments?
I can't be dancing in the living room, so no, I have nothing to add.
Okay, yeah, this is, I think staff has done a good job of reviewing this. The designer's done a great job here. It's a minimal project. So with that, I have the resolution up. Take a look at it here. Standard conditions of approval. There's a couple of special conditions here. Number 25, tree planting. This is just for the requirements for tree planting. Number 26 is colors and material. Colors, materials, and finishes of the addition shall be matched of the existing residence. And then number 27, which Evan talked about, is that the minimum setback needs to be 3 feet, and that needs to be corrected. And it's shown on the southern property line. So with that, do we have a resolution?
I will make a motion. I move that we approve the combined concept and final design study and associated coastal development permit for a 193 square foot ground floor bedroom and bathroom addition on Santa Fe Street 2 southwest of Ocean Avenue. This is DS 21-189 Malamut. And that we include approval of the conditions of approval and the special conditions as well.
We have a second?
I second that.
Okay, motion has been made to accept the resolution as presented by staff, standard and special conditions. It's been seconded. Is there any additional discussion regarding this project? I hear none. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Delbs?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is passed. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, we have, the next item on the public hearings is a design review. This is item number 6 on the public hearings. It is DR 21-14. It's also a use permit. That's UP 21-266. It's called the Conservatory. This is consideration of a design review and use permit application for the establishment of a music recording studio and remodel and structural seismic retrofit of a historic 5,857 square foot structure, including the addition of a 986 square foot interior balcony, staircase, elevator, and a 20 square foot basement addition. Installation of new solar panel array, new skylight, and exterior windows to the China Arts Building, located at Dolores Street, 2 northwest of 7th Avenue in the Central Commercial Zoning District, and it's also in the Downtown Conservation District. Staff report, thank you.
Once again, Chair. Okay, so the project was considered by the Planning Commission at the October 13th hearing and was continued with direction to the applicant to explore providing a design that will have the sound lock on the interior of the building instead of the exterior vestibule. The commission was supportive of the proposed use as a music recording studio and did not provide additional direction regarding the other exterior modifications beyond exploring the relocation of this sound lock. As such, this staff report and presentation only focus on the changes as a result of the sound lock, and the analysis again was provided for the other changes was provided at the previous hearing and was generally supported. So in response to the direction by the Planning Commission, the applicant has not provided revised drawings, but rather has submitted a supplemental information to support their position that the location of the sound lock on the exterior of the building is more efficient for the use and sound attenuation than if located on the interior. Charles Salter, president of Salter, which is a professional sound engineering firm, stated in a cover letter, to achieve adequate sound isolation, a double door system is necessary. The project design provides a double door arrangement while at the same time maximizes the size of the Great Hall. If a portion of the exterior vestibule is not allowed for sound isolation, then the double door arrangement must be brought into the Great Hall. This reduces the number of musicians who can perform in the Great Hall, and it also increases sound transfer into the building by allowing airborne noise out of the doors to shake the building structure and telegraph energy into the room. It's my understanding that Mr. Salter is on the call if there's any questions for him regarding his analysis. In review of the supplemental information, staff identified that the orchestral seating layout provided both with and without the sound lock on the interior would exceed the maximum building occupancy of 49 people as established by the building and fire codes. To accommodate occupancies exceeding 49 persons, staff has coordinated with the building official as well as Monterey Fire to draft special condition of approval number 24, which would allow for temporary events exceeding the maximum occupancy for the sole purpose of providing seating for an orchestra for music recording purposes. This figure is inclusive of musicians, support persons, staff, sound engineers, anyone in the building would be limited under this temporary permit. So the requirements of the permit are that no more than 100 occupants at any time. A professional event management or security company is on site to assist in safety as well as compliance with these regulations. Roof access would be prohibited at all times. This is a requirement of the fire codes due to egress requirements when the occupancy exceeds 49 people, and that there be no more than 5 orchestral events per year. And the full description of the condition has been included as condition of approval number 24 included in the resolution. This is only a summary. So with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving a design review and use permit application. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Other questions from the commissioners for staff? Commissioner Locke?
Evan, can you clarify, okay, so the maximum occupancy on a normal basis is 49 people, correct?
Correct.
And so what our special conditions would allow would be up to 5 times a year, they would be able to have up to 100 people in occupancy. I know you've specified that as being orchestral events. And I may have missed this, but is there a definition of orchestral events anywhere?
So they would need to submit a written request describing the proposed event. It would be a bit discretionary. It would be for seating a orchestra. Typically, there's a chamber orchestra or a symphony orchestra. It wouldn't be a 4-piece rock band with, a large audience, and we couldn't call that a orchestral event. It would have to meet the traditional definition of what a orchestra is.
I would encourage you to perhaps come up with that definition. I think that without it, you're opening up for possible different types of events. I understand, so pre-approval would be required by the director.
Director as well as the fire department.
Okay, and no roof access would be allowed during any of those extraordinary events.
Correct.
So on an annual basis, only 5 times a year would you have over 49 people gathering in the building, correct?
It is no more than 5 event permits shall be allowed in a calendar year. The duration of each event may not exceed 4 days.
Okay, so as far as any kind of a social event or gathering that is not related to the recording of music, reception, that type of thing would not.
It could not exceed 49 people.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Go ahead. No, please go ahead, Gail.
Mr. Lehman, go ahead.
I have a quick one. I don't believe we saw this drawing with the 70 to 100 musicians in the symphony before. I think this is new material. And if you're seating 100 musicians and you have a maximum capacity of 100 in the building, who's operating the equipment?
So part of the condition is, so as part of condition number 24, perhaps I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll pull up the resolution. It'll be a little more clear that way.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Chair, while Evan's pulling that up, maybe I can just add a little bit of clarity. So I think Evan created that slide to give the definition. So those are definitions of what the numbers are for those types of orchestras. So that he was just giving those as an example. Our condition, which he's about to go over with you, actually says that it's limited to a total of 100, including anybody running any recording equipment or anything like that.
And yet the drawing is showing 100 people in the orchestra, which is an argument that has come forward in this petition that we got just a couple of hours ago, that shows all the people in the orchestra they would lose. And I'm really wondering why they would record in this confined space when we have, when the taxpayers have contributed so much to Sunset Center to have an acoustic system that's really world famous. We have fantastic acoustics at Sunset Cultural Center, and why wouldn't any recording of of a symphony orchestra be done there?
I think we can let the applicant speak to that part of it. We're certainly not technical reporting experts, but I think the part that Evan's putting up here for you is just a question about the 100 people. So regardless of whether they're recording engineers or members of the orchestra, it would not exceed 100 people at any time during one of those events.
Which would mean a lot of those seats would be lost anyway. It wouldn't be a matter of it being lost because of an interior sound seal.
So even with the chamber orchestra, it would exceed potentially the 49-person occupancy limit. So even if they don't have a full 100-person orchestra, say 55 musicians, they would still need this permit to exceed the building occupancy. The 100 is just the maximum.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Any other questions? Commissioner Dells, I think you had some questions.
Yeah, and maybe Evan, you can answer this, or we can just direct the applicant to, but I would just appreciate a very specific explanation of how the sound block, not so much how it works, but exactly where all the pieces of glass are in their proposal.
Can you please clarify? Are you referring to how they're attached to the building, or where they are within the vestibule?
Both. Because they also made the point at the site visit a month ago that they're actually removable. And I just want to make sure I understand where all the glass components are so that the public also would understand it.
Sure, I'm sure the applicant can do a better job of explaining the details of it. Perhaps I can leave the details in the plan up, and he can walk you through how it's actually attached to the building and
That's
the
fine.
specific location.
I can wait. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Dells. Is there any other questions from commissioners for staff at this time? Okay.
No, I don't have any.
All right, thank you, Evan. Okay, would the applicant like to address the Planning Commission at this time?
Yes, good evening, commissioners. My name is Rob Carver from Studio Carver. We are the architects for the Conservatory. The owner is on the call to answer any questions. Charles Salter, our acoustical engineer, is also on the call to answer any of your questions. And Kent Seavey, our historical consultant, is here to answer any questions. The city's historical expert made certain specific recommendations, and these recommendations were incorporated into the Historic Review Board's recommendations and staff's conditions of approval. We have redesigned the entry to meet all of those recommendations. And basically that was talking about transparency of the sound block. We are now in complete compliance with all federal, state, and local regulations for the rehabilitation of historic buildings. At your last meeting, you requested that we look at moving the vestibule sound lock into the interior. We studied the sound lock from on the basis of historical regulations, acoustical engineering, and recording studio requirements and aesthetics. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so let's see, which one is there?
At the bottom, it says share screen. There's a little green box there.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to see which screen I'm supposed to share. Here we go. Okay, so can you see that?
You can see it.
If you're trying to show the front of the Sunset Center, yeah.
That's the Sunset Center.
So let me just go to slide 1 here. Okay, so this is Charles' letter, which you already read from, and you've already seen this exhibit. If there's are there any questions about this exhibit? Basically, it's moving the sound block to as far out to the exterior of the building as we can to keep it from, if we move it inside, then you already are getting sound vibrating the ceiling and vibrating the floor. So you're going to get more sound from an acoustical standpoint. And Charles can speak to that if you have any questions. But I think it's very important, but I think that's understood. Now, in this drawing, this is a different drawing than you have. This is shows a total of 5 engineers and 44 musicians. And even in this, the first one wasn't 100. We couldn't fit 100 in there. We do have a lot of isolation booths here where we could put more musicians. So maybe we could fit 100, but it's more like 90, I think, in the drawing that you had. But then we took a look at it in terms of, okay, if we have our 49 maximum, we have 44 musicians and five people, maybe some, friends of the band or the orchestra and some engineers. That's what this looks like with the exterior sound lock. And when we move that to the interior, we still lose, I think it's 10. We lose with 11, we lose 11 chairs, 11 musicians. So in the other configuration, we lost 14 or 15. Here, we're still losing 11 musicians for no good reason. So from the historical perspective, the city itself has done this exact same glass system at Sunset Center that we're proposing. Here's a church from 900 AD in England, where they use the same system to isolate sound. This is an example from the preservation, was it the National Park Service preservation brief number 14 for rehabilitation that shows that this is how you do it, right? This is obviously a lot more, it's a much bigger building, but this is a lot more visible than what we're proposing. So we mentioned that we fully addressed the historians and the HRB's recommendations, and we're fully compliant with the federal standards, historical standards. And I think it's important to note that we're in compliance with the exterior, but we're not in compliance with the interior, because the standards, let's see here, sound lock in the most, it is important to note that putting the sound lock in the most significant interior space is contrary to the preservation brief number 14. So that's right here. And it says that you can go outside, an exterior addition is okay if you can't meet your new needs. Adaptive use cannot be successfully met by altering non-significant interior spaces, which implies that significant interior spaces should not be altered or at least compromised unnecessarily. And the whole purpose of this is a recording studio. So one of the main things that you don't want to do in a recording studio is to shrink your space in any way. That's like I have a slide on that I can show you later.
Rob, can you're getting past your 5 minutes. I think, could you focus your comments on the question Commissioner Delves had about the sound lock, about how it's constructed, how it can be removed,
Yes.
Answer that question. That way you'll be.
Let me see if I have
some of the addressing that specific question.
Okay.
Rob, I have the plans handy if that's easier for you.
Okay, but this is a blow up of that rendering, and I don't know if this explains. We have glass coming, it's attached to behind this wall, and we can see that in plan, but then this allows the historic gates to remain. They swing the wrong way, so we're gonna pin them open. They swing the wrong way for egress, for building code. Then this is the acoustic door, and then up here is the glazing for the basically acoustic wall to create the sound lock. And that goes all the way up behind here and attaches, so everything attaches to the back of the building, the back of the front wall, basically. So if that was to be removed, it wouldn't affect the historic fabric at all. And this is sort of the Bible of acoustics, talking about never cut corners on cubic volume. It is the single most important place to put your music suite dollars. Cubic volume is equal to floor area. Well, we know what volume is. Okay, so, basically they're saying that's the most important thing you can have. These are some historic shots. This is our building here. And you didn't mention the petitions, but we did submit a petition from basically all of the shop owners on the street, strongly supporting what we were doing and specifically supporting our glass entry. This is known as a place where birds hang out, and so they felt it was some of an eyesore.
There you are.
I'm done. This is just the pictures of the street from both sides. If you want to reference them.
Rob, I had a question for you. Can you bring up that section view of the two types of, with the interior and the exterior sound block?
Right. Okay,
so on the one that shows the interior, you would have to apply some sound reduction here to the interior of this dome. What would that be? I mean, this one, it seems to me the advantage on the one you're proposing is you don't have to apply, this is just, doesn't change any of this architecturally in here. It seems like you would have to change this architecturally with the interior. Is that true? I'm just asking for some clarification.
Are you talking about the interior sound block or the vestibule?
Well, you've got this. What's this red line? What's that? That's the exterior.
The red line represents the exterior of the building, and here's the sound block when we do it in the vestibule.
Okay, so this doesn't mean it. This is just the exterior.
Yeah, this is
And then this interior is just the sound block.
Right, and so, but when we move it inside, we bring the sound all the way in here, and so we have to deal with it here and here, and.
I get that. I wasn't sure if this particular rendition would require that some type of soundproofing be put in here, but that's not what this represents.
Well, it would require soundproofing all of this, yeah, because otherwise the sound's just going to go right up through here.
Okay, so I think that needs to be understood that would be a consequence of going on the interior. Whereas this proposal, you're not proposing to put any type of soundproofing here.
Correct.
All right. Are there any other questions for Rob, Commissioner Dels?
Yeah. So just the reason I asked the question, and I'm just going to make the statement, if I'm correct, that the way this is being proposed is that, in fact, if you are standing in front of the building, you could step in 1 feet or 2 feet, before you hit exactly. So I could step into that space where your mark is and look up and see what's in there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The gates would be rehung and no longer swing, but would still be there as outside, on the outside. True? Sorry.
Yes, because if they swung, they would swing out into the public right of way. So we have to pin them there. And right now they swing the wrong way for egress. It's not safe.
And then from a security standpoint, because the question is, where I'm going is it possible to leave the exterior doors open and have the interior doors be security, and then just close the doors for recording? And this is all because others have raised the concern about not being able to, for the public to enjoy the historic vestibule visually.
Well, I think that this is going to be much more transparent than those gates, and the problem with there's it's filthy in there. There's trash in there now, and the birds go in there. So I think this is going to be much nicer, and you can see right through it. So I can't see leaving those doors open. I mean, on a hot day they'll probably be open, but not when they're recording. And for the most part, no, I don't think we'll be doing that.
Okay, just Just curious, trying to understand it. Thank you.
Rob, I had another question for you. What's the distance from the perimeter of the building to the sound wall doors?
Well, I know that from here to here is 6 feet, and that's what we did also when we did the interior. We had 6 feet. 4 to 6 feet, I think, is ideal for the acoustic damping. That's what Charles had recommended. And so we need to be able to open the doors and, not have them conflict.
This distance here is something, it's a little less than 6 feet or something.
My guess, if this is 6, that's probably
4 to 5.
Yeah, 4.5 to 5.
So the example, so let me just understand. So the example that you showed us of those other 2 buildings, one of them being Sunset Center and another being a church from another century. So those showed it flush. So this is actually, this glass is going to be back in there. It's not actually out at street. It's not out at the street, right?
Right. Exactly.
So it's not like it's not in the same plane as the front of the building.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think it'll be very, very low key.
Okay.
By the way, Michael, these are 3-foot doors.
Okay. All right. So it's probably 5. At least 5 feet.
Property line, 4'10" from the property line here to the glass. 4'10".
4'10". Okay, thank you. Okay, did you want to make any more comments about this? Or you have time to rebut. I think it would be helpful if I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Your sound expert.
Charles.
Yeah, Charles.
Also, we had letters of support from people that wasn't mentioned. Philip Glass wrote a letter of support. Sheila Joris, Gabe Joris just sent one in. We were hoping to have Denny Levin on the call and Rich Pepe. That I'm not sure if they ran kind of late. So 6 o'clock. We told him 5. So.
Okay.
Oh, here's Denny. Got his hand up.
All right. Well, maybe we can have, before Denny speaks, let's have Mr. Salter speak about the sound lock, the benefits and the problems with it in different locations.
Okay, Charles.
This is Charles Salter speaking, and the design in front of you is a very efficient design to make the recording studio as quiet as possible. And as you can imagine, when you're recording, you want a virtually silent environment, and we're trying to block out the traffic noise. And so the double arrangement is most efficient, the way that the drawing is showing. And so if you can't do that and you have to bring the double doors inward, you're reducing the volume of the recording facility and you're creating an adverse recording environment. So it just won't be as high quality as one would like it to be, that the city of Carmel would be proud of. And so when I saw this design, I was very happy from an acoustical design point of view. Bringing the vestibule inside has room acoustics problems. And then the point that was previously made by the diagrams is energy flow. So if you can keep the traffic noise energy flowing into the building as far outside as possible, then there's fewer surfaces to be acoustically energized by the airborne noise. And that was a point that was previously made and shown in the section diagrams. So this is what we looked at before. If you look on the right-hand diagram, you get this airborne noise, which shakes the building. And so you have more surfaces to pick up the energy and then bring it into the building. Whereas if you can do the diagram on the left-hand side, the section diagram, which is the proposed design, you are keeping the energy outside and therefore creating a quieter acoustic environment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Salter. Are there any questions for Mr. Salter as far as the technical aspect of this from the commissioners?
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Salter. I don't think I'm dense, or not often, but I don't understand why we had specifically given direction that we wanted an alternative done for the inside, and I'm not seeing that in your diagram. Excuse me. I'm only seeing that you're creating an impossibility, or that's what seems to be the conversation, rather than the doing the possible, which is to get a double set of doors inside, and you could certainly do it as a glass box. You wouldn't even have to go all the way up to the top of that ceiling. The same way you're creating this glass box and destroying the essence of the entry, which is totally against our commercial guidelines. You haven't come up with a plan to make it work for the inside, which is what the Planning Commission had voted on, and that was the unanimous direction that was given to Mr. Carter and to yourself, in essence, Mr. Salter. So I still don't understand why you can't do that. We now have this quasi-orchestra, which of course can be rotated, face the other way, and you can have all those people, which you can't have anyway in there because it would be too many people. So, and how often you would actually have a symphony in there. It seems preposterous when we have Sunset Center, just a couple of blocks from there, which has incredible recording capability and incredible
Commissioner Lehman,
space.
can you just hold your comments until right now I just want to get the technical questions, and
Well, that's what I'm asking for, Chair LePage. I'm asking him where is the plan that we had asked for? I'm just seeing that this is a no, and it concerns me.
Do you want to respond to that, Rob?
Sure. There's the plan right there for the interior sound lock. It doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work?
Do that. It doesn't. There's no reason to ruin the main recording space and let the sound come into the building. There's just no logical reason to do that. Everybody on the street has signed our petition that they think this is wonderful. So I know aesthetically you don't like it, and you're welcome to your opinion, but that's really not a factual thing. That's a matter of opinion, that you don't think it looks good, and that's fine. But a lot of people think it does look good.
I don't want to get into an argument about this right now. Let's wait this. All I want to do is just get the questions answered, and so let's wait till we get into the comments before we get into these type specifics. So I appreciate both of your comments. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to guide this till we get to that portion of it. I just want to get the technical questions answered at this time. So are there any other questions for Mr. Salter as to what's being proposed with the interior or the exterior sound locks from the commissioners? Any more questions from you, Commissioner Lehman, as far as specifically? Any details about this that you don't understand that they're presenting?
Well, all I hear is that it doesn't work. How have they even tested to see if it doesn't work? That's what I keep trying to ask either Mr. Salter or the architect, but we're still not. I'll reserve all my comments for when the commissioners speak.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to, you have time to rebut, Rob, So I think you've kind of covered your comments at this time. We appreciate Mr. Salter's input. So I'm going to open it up to the public for their comments. I think Danny Levette had his hand up first. Mr. Levette, you have 3 minutes to make your comments.
Levette speaking.
If I didn't get that right. I think you're muted, Denny.
It sounds that way.
There you go.
Okay, you've got me.
Gotcha.
Good. You know, the greatest frustration of my life has been the Carmel Planning Commission for all the years I've been here, which is about 45 years. Now, I like everybody on the Planning Commission. The problem that I see, it takes one to say I don't like it and something goes down the tubes. It's just my opinion only. I love that building. I looked at that building a number of times to buy, and I love the plans that they have, and I love the door. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you know, it's for the last 50 years or more, I've been called by people with tongue-in-cheek, Mr. Curb Appeal. And that is my strongest suit, I guess. And I love Carmel. You know I do. I just get so frustrated. That building, I think they've got a heck of a buyer. I keep thinking maybe I should have tried harder, but you've got a wonderful buyer. Please go along with them, please. I mean, I've got great friends, Symphony, Locke, Al Soroyan, but members of your commission, and I do have a lot of respect for you, even though you make me want to jump off of the highest building in Carmel, which I'm not sure would do me in. I hope I've been a little bit of help. I hope I didn't upset anybody too much. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Levette. Is it Nicole? Is it Riley?
It's Nicola. Thank you.
Oh, Nicole. I'm sorry.
Nicola.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nicola Riley. I'm the executive director of the Monterey Symphony. Our offices are located on the southwest corner of 7th and San Carlos, so we're just around the corner from the Conservatory. I'd like to speak today both in total support of the project itself and also in support of the proposed entryway glass and the importance of retaining as much inside usable space as possible. Our full symphony orchestra is 80 members strong, and we just presented 2 sold-out concerts at the Forest Theater with 72 instruments on stage. To cut into the space to create a different kind of entryway actually takes away from the overall functionality of it, and cutting musicians from a piece is never as easy as it sounds, and most of the time the composer himself has dictated the actual number of performers needed. Size also dictates overall programming and selection of pieces. So I believe that the proposed glass on the entry is not only gorgeous and pays homage to Sunset Center, but it serves that functional purpose of keeping the sound in. I truly also believe that a more impressive team could not have been assembled to work on this building, and the Symphony, we're very excited about having this space in Carmel, as it truly honors Carmel's past as a haven for creativity and artists. During this conversation, there's been a lot of mentions of why not use Sunset Center, and all of the historic presenting partners, including the Symphony and the Bach Festival, would of course continue to use Sunset for all of our concerts. But to have a unique, possibly once a year or once every 2 years opportunity to come and record with brand new state-of-the-art recording equipment that is already there. Although Sunset Center has a wonderful acoustic for performing, there is a great amount of work that needs to be done in terms of the recording technology that's available at Sunset Center. So this would provide a unique opportunity for organizations such as ours to be able to come in and do a very specific recording project. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application?
I would.
Okay, you have the floor, whoever you are.
Thank you. I'm Sandra Pepe. I'm the owner of Little Napoli across the street from the China Art Building. We've been there for close to 30 years. I've been in town for 50 years. For years, we've looked across the street at the China Art Building, and seen nothing going on. It kind of just has gotten older and more tired as time has gone on. So I'd like to support the building and the new use of the building. And it's exciting to have someone who's a qualified buyer that's bought the building and wants to put it to good use in an artsy way that is in line with our town. And I think that the door in front, when I look at the rendering of it, I don't think we're going to notice it at all. And to have the gates there to make the building look historically as it always has is just a plus. So I just like to thank you for listening and being considerate of what I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Pepe.
Thank you.
Commissioner LePage, can I speak also, Rich Pepe? And I won't take.
Yes, Rich, go ahead.
Probably combined, we won't go over 3 minutes. I too echo Sandra's comments. We've been across the street for 30 years and probably for 20 of it, the building was never really open. It had pigeons there and just there was people would throw garbage over the railing, et cetera. So this is a really exciting project. It really can also help bring Dolores Street, back to its grandeur and the building itself. I did speak with Rob Carver and the contractor, John McMahon, and took a real close look at the renderings. In my opinion, I don't think you'll even notice the glass wall, the sound block glass wall and the doors. Rob Carver told me it's probably going to be some type of muted, the frame itself, and Michael, you're a builder, the frame itself of the doors would be some kind of muted silver that will just disappear on your eye, and it'll just look like a clear film there. And I'm also told that the builder is considering, or maybe it is on the works of improving the sidewalk out front, which is a complete mess, all broken concrete, et cetera, and putting new stone on the facade of the building, et cetera. I think it's going to be a wonderful project. I hope you really consider it. And I just think from a passerby perspective, you won't even notice the glass. One more final thing, it brings art back into the community, the artists, the musicians, without another art gallery. It's very low impact. It won't add to parking. Not a lot of delivery trucks at all, or none, of course, really no employees in the building. So we fully support it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Rich. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? I don't see any hands going up. Am I missing anybody? If you're on the phone, you need to press *6 to unmute. Okay.
We have Sheila Joris here who would like to say something.
Okay, all right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sheila Joris. We have La Bicyclette Restaurant, which is, as you know, next door. And I'm just so excited that we're finally going to have some life next door. That building, the China Art Center, has been empty and extremely neglected, even before the former owners left or passed away. It's just been neglected for really way, way, way too long. And I'm also excited because this represents a real feather in the cap of Carmel for cultural events. And it is a welcome change from the, duplication of businesses that we tend to have in town that are tourist oriented. So I'm excited about the collaborations that can happen with the Symphony, with Sunset Center events like the Bach Festival. Specifically regarding the door, I think this is something that has been adapted internationally with historical buildings. And it's a beautiful, simple stroke that accomplishes everything that needs to be accomplished. It disturbs for the least amount the historical aspect visually. It allows for the full use of the interior. It's aesthetically, you know, almost imperceptible really when you look at the pictures of before and after that Studio Carver has prepared. They're pretty much, it's really hard to see the difference between the two pictures. So I think the owner, Mr. Moriarty, is uniquely skilled in bringing a lot of skill to what he is trying to do there. And we should give him all the support that he deserves. He's invested in this heavily, energetically, monetarily. He's brought his family to the area, and he's knows what he's doing. So please give him all the support you can. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Joris. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, Rob, I'm going to give you a 3-minute rebuttal time.
Well, I don't think there's anything to rebut other than to try to maybe explain to Commissioner Lehman that we did look at what it would mean if we put the sound lock on the inside, and I think we demonstrated that it's a less you know, smart solution from the historical and from the acoustic standpoints, and those are pretty factual engineering kind of things. And then the aesthetics of putting it inside or out are just somebody's opinion. Everybody has their opinions. It's subjective. That's not a regulation. And it's, you know, we have all kinds of historical international precedent for doing something like this. And the functionality of the room, as Nicola so aptly addressed, you know, it's about the space. We don't want to lose, you know, 10 musicians for when we don't have to. So we did look at it. I mean, believe me, we looked at it. We've been looking at it for a month. We spent a huge amount of time studying this, and we took it seriously. We always do. So we looked at it. We just decided there were so many reasons not that it wasn't a good idea, basically.
Thank you, Rob. All right. I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their discussion and comments. Commissioner Locke, would you like to begin?
Sure. So I have a couple just kind of different sides on this. Commissioner Lehman, I agree with you. The direction from the Planning Commission was to come back and give us what it would look like to move the sound wall inside. And I don't think that was adequately done. I think you've clearly said that it was the most effective and rational means to configure the glass in the entry. And I don't think there was really a lot of consideration given for how it might work on the inside. I think you could find a way to move back the space. You've got 2 offices or spaces on each side of the doorway, and those could have been moved back. Yes, you'd lose some square footage on the interior where that entry is, but you could also move back your studio area in the back of the building. I would have liked to have seen that. I think that the fact is you did not give us an alternative to look at. In terms of where we are with this application, you know, I do find it interesting. And I understand the need for silence inside, but you're also talking about Dolores Street, which is, I mean, people are doing maybe 10, 15 miles an hour going down that street. There's not a lot of traffic. There's not a lot of noise coming in. So, you know, to me, the whole concept of that's going to shake the building, et cetera, when you're in a recording situation, yeah, that might happen from time to time, but it certainly doesn't happen on a regular basis. And I'm really torn on this. I mean, I certainly understand. I think I'd like almost a better rendering of how this would look. I think the fact that the gates are going to remain, to me, is a huge plus. The gates for the China Art Center are one of the things that makes that building very unique to me. The vestibule, the entry vestibule, is the second thing. If the gates are there and it's enclosed, I mean, the gates have been closed for years. We've never been able to get into that entryway. So I personally think that that's, you know, the enclosure of that area is probably not the biggest thing, because it will still be visible to the public and you can still see in. I'd like the public to be able to go into the building, but you know, obviously we have a business here where the public really wouldn't be able to go in. So I don't know. I'm just, that really is my comments on this. I'm really mixed on it. Michael, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Commissioner Dels, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, thanks to everyone. As with the previous historic building, I'll start by saying I first look to the Historic Resource Board for their input and recommendation, and they approved this. They approved this, and that included the glass sound lock as proposed, and I have to respect that as a starting point. Secondly, and it's the same comment I made before, I think in order to preserve historic structures, we have to have an open mind about repurposing them. And in this case, it is repurposing a deteriorating and essentially vacant building into a world-class recording studio. I'm supportive of that repurposing for a lot of reasons that go beyond being a planning commissioner. But and if you're going to be repurposed, again, it's the and not or. I think we need to be open to allowing the owner to repurpose it as well, you know, to their best ability for that purpose. And I am convinced, persuaded that having the sound lock on the, as proposed, in the vestibule is the best way to do that. I've tried to make this part of my normal walk. I will say, just to contradict Commissioner Locke, Dolores Street can be very noisy, especially between 10 and 1. Which is when I tend to walk up there with my dog. As is true with all streets there, the food delivery in particular trucks are really quite loud. A lot of them are refrigerated. There's multiple restaurants right there, and I suspect the other restaurateurs and owners there will say the same thing. And so I do think it can be extremely loud at certain times of the day. Perhaps most importantly, you know, I was one of the comments from before, and I think it was from Commissioner Lehman, of the importance of from a historic standpoint of the public to be able to enter the vestibule. And I think this solution is elegant in that it does that. That was my primary thing that I was not entirely understanding until today, but that you can take, it's not 2 feet, we think it's between 4 and 5 feet, into the vestibule and have a glass door in front of you, have glass on the sides of you and glass above you, and with, you know, minimal structure beyond the glass, so that you can enjoy that vestibule, and that vestibule will be cleaned up and restored, and then the pigeons won't get back in. And so the grandeur of that vestibule will actually stay more pristine because of the sound lock. And I also agree with the gates staying there. I think that's a big part of it. So I am not only supportive of this and supportive of the sound block as proposed, I actually think it's an improvement in that this vestibule will be special again, and the building will be special again, and you know its repurposed use will be fabulous, and we'll be getting a seismic retrofit on top of this, which is very important for the historic preservation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Delps. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to make your comments
Sure.
this time?
Yeah. Well, I just want to read a few things to you quickly. As Commissioner Locke says, the commission was very clear, and I have said it already today, in our direction, which was to explore a way to find a solution to do interior soundproofing of the doors without impeding on the vestibule or the front entry doors. And now I see it gets even a little bit different, that they are pinning the gates, so the gates won't have movement. They will have to stay in this open position. Now we've reached a point in the town where we have dueling petitions. We have a petition from the residents, the people who live here, and then we have a petition from the businesses on this street. And there might be a couple of other names that have been thrown into that petition. But basically, we have this duality, which is sad. It's just it's everything that Carmel was not brought to life about. You know, in a sense, it's good that people are getting involved and they're watching what we're doing. I like that. But I think that at no point do I ever feel that preservation is death, as was said in the petition that was sent to us by the business residents. I believe it's the first line in their petition, which we got just a couple of hours, incidentally, before this meeting started. I think people come here to live, to visit, because of the beauty of the old and the new. The art, the restaurants, and most of all, the beauty of the beach and the sea. I hear people all the time walking down the street, because I walk all over town every day. And they say, "Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful?" And, you know, what they're looking at is a lot of the old and a lot of the very contemporary, and that's great. But to take the old and to destroy it by this glass wall, I think it's wrong. I think there is another solution. The solution can be inside. It's a huge building. It was originally presented to us as a conglomerate of recording studios. Those were the drawings that we saw last month. And they were soundproof studios. And within this soundproof studio, there was a large lobby. I think it's great that someone has bought the building and will clean up the front. I think it could have been cleaned up if all the businesses on the street were that concerned. They could have hired someone on a continuing basis to keep it clean if there was garbage being thrown in there. The way they've gotten together to petition, the way I see that volunteers all over this town are picking up garbage and are planting medians and contributing to the town. But I'm very concerned about the attitude of what has come out of this. We have commercial district design guidelines, and these, I feel, violate so much. Dolores Street, for one thing, is part of our conservation district. There are 43 buildings within the commercial conservation district. I'm not talking about any of the private homes. Of those 43, 14 are on this one block between Ocean and 7th on Dolores on both sides of the street. And I think it behooves us to know something about the federal standards and the standards that we are involved in. The standards were changed. There seems to be some confusion. The standards were changed about 8 years ago. And what they've been asked, what they want now is they continue to require differentiation, but now want the new materials and architectural style to be more compatible with the historic structure. And that is straight out of the federal standards. This is what they're looking for. And this is not what we're getting. It's not, honestly, it's, you know, I think Sunset Center is a wonderful place, but I think it's not comparable to what we're talking about here. I know they used glass, but it wasn't anything that was destroying that beautiful plasterwork, that the vestibule. In the downtown conservation district, our standards say the historic character of the property will be retained and preserved. Distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize the property will be preserved. This is not being preserved. I find that our commercial district guidelines were to conserve the historical village character and pedestrian orientation of Carmel Central Commercial District. The emphasis of this document is architectural with special attention to building facades. Modifications to buildings should respect the history and traditions of the architecture of the commercial district. Basic elements of design integrity and consistency throughout each building should be preserved or restored. Adding a new design element in order to create a separate business identity is inappropriate if it breaks the basic lines, materials, and concept of the building or imposes a hodgepodge of design elements. The pedestrian wall should not be without relief. It should be punctuated by occasional offsets produced by entries, window projections, small planters, and entrances to courtyards and intra-block walkways. Large sheets of glass. I'm now on page 11 of our guidelines. Large sheets of glass unbroken by divisions can appear too urban or modern and should be avoided. Conserve or create recessed entries. Should two business entries be close to one another in the same building, a single recess may be designed to accommodate both. Size, shape, and nature of doors and entries on page 12. Entrances to stores are typically recessed from the facade by creating a small alcove. This establishes a more definitive sense of entry and affords an alternative view of merchandise in display windows. But we don't have any display windows and we don't have any merchandise, but what we have is a really beautiful vestibule, and it's getting destroyed by this design. I know there's a way to do this on the inside. I am not without knowledge. I have a history. I've done 2.5 million square feet of commercial office space and 4 hospitals. And I think this is a travesty. The petition that came through a few days ago, or when we got our packet from the residents, was very clear. They are really upset about this, and I can't argue this anymore. it's really, it's the kind of thing that tears you apart, because this is a small thing and it can be done on the inside. It's a shame this building was bought by someone that's going to lock it off from the public. The most beautiful thing would have been if someone would have created another art gallery in there, or a museum, something about Carmel-by-the-Sea and what we're about. But instead, we're getting this constant talk about the pigeons. You know, pigeons can be removed from a place very easily. You know, there are all sorts. There must be 20 different entries on Google about how to get rid of pigeons without harming the pigeons themselves, where you can get them away from your entries. So I think that's, you know, it's a nonsense argument on this about the pigeons and how dirty it was. Anyone who's going to do anything with that building will clean up the outside and keep it clean. But this is not advantageous to the people of Carmel, and we're the residents. And this is important. And I'm certainly not against development. I mean, it's a portion of what I do for a living, and I'm not against modern urbanity. I'm an abstract artist, but this cannot, in my opinion, and I'm just one of four tonight, that feels like this is not appropriate, that this can be looked at, and maybe a different sound engineer than Mr. Salter can come in and design something for the inside that will be acceptable to the owner without doing anything to destroy the front entry. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Well, I feel like the mop-up crew here coming at the end. The comments here have covered a lot of ground tonight, and but for me, it kind of breaks down to two things. This is obviously a very historic building. It's in the Historic Conservation District. So we have to look at, you know, what are the impacts of anything that's being proposed to be put on it. And I have to say that, and I felt this way at the first hearing too, I don't think what they're proposing has a significant impact on the building. I know a lot of people don't like it and they're very sensitive to it, but I don't think it has a significant impact on it. Because it's recessed, it's glass, you can still walk in, see the vestibule. It's not destroying the vestibule. It's an addition to it, but because of the transparent nature of glass, it's still, the vestibule in its original architectural context is all there. They're not proposing to change anything to the front of this building. They're going to attach something inside the vestibule. That's the reality of it. What I thought direction we gave to them was that they should explore putting the sound lock on the inside, and they did that. And it's their opinion, whether you agree with it or not, that it's not as good a solution as what they originally proposed. I'm not so caught up in that, but I do think there are advantages to having it as originally proposed. So without going into a lot of discussion about this or comments on my part, I do support it as it is proposed. Staff has presented findings to support it as it is proposed. And I think the applicant has followed our direction of exploring it otherwise. Before we go over the resolution or talk about make a motion, I know Brandon, the director, he'd like to make some comments about the makeup of the commission right now, the fact that we only have 4 commissioners present. So Brandon, would you like to make those comments at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think in these situations, it's helpful to understand the voting and the counts and all that. So a couple of things for the commission to consider. Your rules of procedure talk about cases of a tie vote. Tie vote effectively is an action or a motion that doesn't carry. If there cannot be a substitute motion coming after that that can get a majority of the votes, if it keeps failing and there's no other motion that gets passed, then it effectively is a denial of the project, whether or not the motion is to deny the project or not. If you do not get an affirmative vote of a motion, it ends continually in a tie, it becomes a denial. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. The second thing is that use permits per our zoning code require 3 votes of the planning commission to be approved. So I just want to put that out there. It's sort of the same thing. If you think about it, a tie, the only way to not have a tie in tonight's case is to have 3 people. But I just want to make that clear that a use permit requires 3 commissioners to vote in the affirmative, and ties ultimately turn into a denial if you can't break the tie.
Brandon, we really have two decisions here. We have the use permit and the design, right? Design review. So those going to be separate motions?
No, I would say those should be carried together in the same. They're all part of the same resolution. It wouldn't make sense to
because the design is the vestibule, which
that's the project. Yeah, that's right.
Point of contention.
Yeah, correct.
Right. Okay. All right. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay. So do the commissioners have any questions about this? What Brandon just explained to us?
No.
Or want any clarification on that? Okay. All right. Having said that, we have a resolution from staff to approve the design review and to grant the use permit. There are a number of special conditions. The one, number 16 and 17 speak to the sound lock entry design. Number 16 says the glazing system shall be revised to include fewer glass panels, thinner steel framing elements to make this glazing system as transparent as possible. Details shall be provided to Carmel Planning Building for review and approval prior to issuance of building permit. I don't know if that's been done, if the applicant feels like they've done that yet. I'm not clear on that. We might get to.
I can clarify that if you'd like.
Yes.
That it was part of the HRB resolution that any conditions or recommended conditions be included as part of the final action. So they have successfully done this. And then the discussion regarding why it's included was part of the October 13th staff report.
Okay, thank you, Evan.
So it's more for the record.
Right, okay, and then number 17, sound lock entry detail. Detail of the glazing system includes type of opacity of glass. I mean, so that's all been, those 2 things have been met, right? Is that correct?
Yes, 16 and 17 have been satisfied.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to go through all the others. There hasn't been any discussion addressing those. It seems to me that, I think even from Commissioner Lehman, I haven't heard any disagreement with any of those special conditions. I shouldn't speak for her though. Commissioner Lehman, are there any of those other special conditions here that you have any issues with?
I'm trying to bring them up again so I can look at it.
Do you want me to kind of go through them, or I mean I can do that.
Well, it will just take me a minute. The internet's very slow.
I have them up. I can share my screen if that would be convenient.
That would be great. Thank you.
So at the top of the screen is number 18. We just discussed 16 and 17. So it starts at 18 regarding keeping noise within the building.
Yeah, let's see here. What we got. Yeah, so 18 was noise, 19 is music within the outdoor areas, 20 was rooftop mechanical equipment. 21 is the fire service equipment. 22 is prohibited areas. Those are concerts with live audiences are not permitted. 23 is that maximum capacity, occupancy. 24 is a in-depth discussion about the occupancy for recording orchestral recordings. 25 roof access. 26 is the easement recordation. So are there any other special conditions there that you had any issues with, Commissioner Lehman?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't have.
Okay, so we have a resolution to approve the project with special conditions as per staff. Do we have a motion for that, for that resolution? I will make a motion that we accept the resolution as presented to staff with the special conditions. Is there a second to that motion?
Sorry, I'm just having some trouble here. I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the resolution as per staff with the special conditions as per staff. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
No.
Commissioner Locke?
No.
And Chair LePage?
Yes. So we have a tie. Do we have a substitute motion? Actually, I don't think we can. I think we're based. I don't see how a substitute motion, unless we significantly change the special conditions, is going to have an opportunity to pass.
Yes, so Mr. Chair, any commissioner does have the opportunity to make an alternative motion. In this case, it's an alternative motion because it's failed.
Right.
So you would want to open it for your commissioners to make an alternative motion, which could then be voted on by the whole commission.
Commissioner Locke?
Yeah, I'm still pushing to see what kind of a resolution we can get using the inside of the building. And and Gail, I'm going to ask you to think about this, but continuing this, or if it's possible to continue it and get a something that we can actually consider as far as something that would provide the soundproofing inside the building, leaving the vestibule, the gates alone, so that the front of the building does maintain its existing historic features without having the glass. That to me would be my ideal situation.
Yeah, that works for me.
Well, let me just make a comment here. Rather than holding this up, I was trying to think of some way that we could have this, move this forward with the interior vestibule. I mean, here's what I'm thinking. We're kind of hung up on this vestibule thing, but there's a lot to this project. And I think, for me, it's important that this project move along. And I hate to see it get hung up over this vestibule. So,
Mr. Chair, could I offer a potential solution for the commission?
Yes.
So one potential solution, because the commission can add and modify conditions as part of this hearing. If the commission chose, they could approve the project, however, with a special condition of approval that the sound attenuating vestibule be moved completely in, and that there was no changes or modification to the front of the building. That would at least be a decision by the Planning Commission, which then could be appealed by the applicant if they felt that they wanted to appeal that decision to the City Council. So they would have effectively an approval if they wanted to modify their plans and take that approval and deal with that approval, or they could then appeal that to the City Council if they did not want to go pursue that design.
Well, that's exactly what I was getting at. You just said it in a much more expletive way. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that particular motion be made so that we could move this along tonight, because it's like I said, I hate to hold this up because I think it's a good project, and the vestibule is such a small part of it, really.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree with that. And Brandon, if I don't have to restate what you just said.
You don't have to. You can just say,
Yeah,
you want that to be your motion.
I would move
Make that work.
yeah, I would move that we move forward with the approval with the soundproofing inside the building.
Without any changes to the vestibule.
Yes.
On the exterior.
To the exterior.
Essentially making a motion that they will bring an interior design for the sound block.
Guys, one of the things I think you might want to clarify is, because you're using the words exterior and interior, and I'm not sure what a vestibule is.
The vestibule is exterior.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Lehman.
Vestibule is exterior.
Okay.
Something I would like to clarify for the record, or to include in the motion. Someone mentioned no changes to the vestibule. The gates do need to be altered. The swing currently isn't building code compliant, so there would be a change to the swing of the gates.
Okay, I would accept that.
That's acceptable.
As part of your motion, Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second to this motion?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the design and use permit with the special condition that the sound lock be on the interior of the building. And no changes other than the change in the entry gates to meet the egress requirement.
Yes.
Everybody understood on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Oh, I think Commissioner Dell.
I'm just to get it out there. I'm not going to support the motion, and it's one of those difficult positions, just because I understand where you're going, and I actually think it's the right move, but also I just fear that by supporting the motion, I'm agreeing that we should be moving these things inside, and I just happen to feel pretty strongly that where they are is the right, that where the sound lock is the right thing. So for those reasons, I'll be voting no.
Okay, thank you for that clarification and on that, Commissioner Dells. Okay, is there any other further discussion on this? Hearing none, can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Dells?
No.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. We've got one more item on the public hearings. Do you want to have a break, or do you want to just plow through it?
Can we get a 5-minute break?
Okay, let's just let's have a 10-minute break. So we will we'll resume at 7:12. Okay, we'll reconvene the Planning Commission meeting. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Delves?
Here.
Commissioner Lehman? Commissioner Lehman, you're muted. Commissioner Lehman, you're muted. Commissioner Locke?
Here.
Chair LePage?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All right. Okay, the last item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. It's item number 7 on our agenda. This is a DS 21-274. This is a Hermie Collins project. It's consideration of a concept study for the partial demolition and 174 square foot net addition to an existing 1,395 square foot, one-story residence with a 230 square foot detached garage, including the construction of a new 361 square foot second story located on the southwest corner of San Carlos Street and 9th in the R1 district. We have the staff report, please.
Okay, so the subject site is a 4,000 square foot lot developed with an existing 1,395 square foot residence, as well as a 230 square foot detached garage. The applicant is proposing to reduce the main residence by the ground floor of the main residence by 150 square feet to accommodate a 362 square foot second story addition. They're also proposing to reconfigure the garage and reduce it by 30 square feet, which will result in a 200 square foot detached garage. Additional project components include landscaping and site coverage improvements throughout. There's one significant acacia tree that the majority of it's located in the public right of way. Just a small portion of the roots extend across, or the base of the tree of the roots extend across the property line. There are 2 significant oaks located at the front of the residence, 2 moderately significant oaks, and then the forestry department has recommended planting 3 upper canopy trees on site. Those will be included as conditions of approval at the final hearing, as well as a performance standard to ensure that they are planted. So staff has not identified any privacy or view impacts associated with the project, despite the addition of the second story. The majority of the windows do face either a commercial property, so to the rear, which is the west side or left, as shown on the site plan, that is the Red Cross building. To the north is 8th Avenue, and there is a balcony located that fronts San Carlos Street. There are 3 windows on the south elevation that do front the adjacent property owner's courtyard. However, those windows are not anticipated to have any impacts. The window right here is located in the bedroom with a bed positioned that would block access. This window right here is in the stairway, but you can see the intermediate level of the stairs is well below the window, and the distance from the top of the stairway is quite substantial. And then this third window is located in a shower, so the only opportunity to look out of that window would be if someone's taking a shower. So again, no privacy or view impacts have been identified. The neighbor to the south did provide a comment letter to staff. However, they concluded that they were supportive of the project. So the mass and bulk does relate to the context of homes nearby. This site is a bit unusual that it is located right on the edge of the commercial districts. The new second story does substantially increase the height. However, it is not out of scale with the surrounding areas. As seen from San Carlos, the oak tree screens the residence almost entirely, and then is viewed from 8th Avenue. Again, it is in scale with the surrounding properties. Another unique consideration is that there's a 3-foot tall retaining wall around the property. So the house naturally looks a bit taller than it really is, but it is within the height limits and is actually lower than the maximum allowable 24-foot height. Again, building and roof form meets our standards. It's a simple rectangular shape that is continued with the new 2nd-story addition. The roof is pitched at 4 and 12 throughout and is comprised of gabled roof forms. And with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution accepting a concept design study. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there questions from any of the commissioners for Evan?
No.
So I have one.
Mr. Gels.
In terms of, I guess, finishes, is that then part of the final review?
Correct. We only discussed what's traditionally discussed in a concept hearing. The finished materials, the building will be stucco with the stone retaining wall around, but we can go into more detail at the final details hearing.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions for staff? All right, thank you, Evan. Would the applicant like to address the Planning Commission?
Excuse me, yes. Good evening, Chairman LePage and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Claudio Ortiz. I'm representing Craig Collins and Lynn Hurlin on this project. As Evan stated, thank you for the presentation. He pretty much addressed the main concept of the project. It's a simple project in a sense. It's a remodel with a small addition. And what I'd like to address, and not to go over the details again that Evan just talked about, is just mainly to address the primary 3 items that I had to deal with on this project, which is privacy, light, and open space. The 2nd story was designed in a manner that it was placed on the southern side of the property. And the reason for that is to not to create a additional bulk or mass to the structure, given that it is practically sitting on a platform. As Evan mentioned, the structure is sitting on a 3-foot high retaining wall. This platform terrain does elevate the structure higher than the street, and so proposing a 2nd story would have been, it could have created more mass. So by placing it on the southern side of the property, that kept it away from the street. Right now, the 2nd story is roughly about 30 feet from the 8th Avenue street edge, and so that was one of the concerns we had when we designed this project. Another one, it was privacy. As Evan mentioned, we minimized the amount of windows facing south, given the fact that we have a neighbor, a residential structure with patios and so forth. So we minimized the windows to maintain their privacy. The other item we had to address was the open space. Given how the structures are situated, our building sits forward compared to the adjacent property to the south. And so when we placed the 2nd story, it automatically created this staggered massing of the 2nd story, maintaining the open space. So those were the 3 main concerns that we had that we addressed with this design. As Evan has stated, we had to remove some portions of the garage to bring the structure to compliance, and we are also removing a northeast portion of the existing structure to create some sort of entrance, but more importantly, to reduce the mass on that portion of the building. So as seen from the street, it'll reduce the massing of the structure. So those were the main items that we focused on, and as we designed the structure. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions on this project.
Are there any questions for Claudio from the commissioners? I don't see any hands up. Okay, thank you, Claudio.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Don't see any hands going up. Don't see any, there's no callers left, so, okay, I'm gonna, unless you have any more comments, Claudio, I'm gonna close the public hearing, open it to the commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Lehman, would you like to start out?
I think I'll pass it to someone.
You gotta take a breath after that last one.
Yeah. Bring my voice back.
Thank you. Commissioner Locke?
Yeah, no, I have no problem with this project. I used to live in the area, walked by this house all the time. I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. I think it fits in. It will be a nice addition. And we didn't have any complaints from neighbors or concerns necessarily. So I think that it's a good project. Thank you, Claudio.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Dells?
I have nothing to add. I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I think staff has identified the necessary findings.
Wait, I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, you missed your chance. You missed your chance, Gail. Go ahead. Sorry.
Claudio, I wanted to thank you for doing, I hadn't seen anyone do the streetscape where you did the applique of the new project on the normal street. And I liked seeing that outline. It really made a lot of sense. It was really good.
Well, thank you.
The only thing, and I know we're not doing colors now, but just as kind of a guidance, it looks very white. And I just had a couple of neighbors accost me, honestly, from my area because of the house on Torrey's and 9th. They're really very upset about it. And so I know this is a different issue, but the whiteness of the stucco is a little overwhelming there. It's a much larger house than this is. And I walk by it all the time because I take 8th Avenue into town. So that I'm glad because it will be something really nice on that corner. And it's nice to have it across from Sunset. It's a great block. So, and I think the design is just fine. I don't have any feelings of any negative feelings about it. Certainly, as I was looking at it just now, and I don't know if it's the shock of this last hour or so that I've been on this program. It looks like a church because the windows all look like crucifixes, and there's something very stately and very sweet about it. There's a church in Davenport that you see as you're going up Highway 1 that's set back a little. It is yellow. It's not white unless it's been painted. I haven't been up 1 all the way to the city like I used to do. But it does have that feeling, and it's very soft because of it. So that's not a criticism. It just is. But I think we've got to temper the white, as we get into these something that's all stucco to just give it some relief. So
that's a good point. I'll take that into consideration. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Yeah, I think this is a nice example of a Mediterranean interpretation. And I think that's something that you do very well, Claudio. I mean, you really have become quite a master at it. And it's really an improvement to that house. House right now is very undistinctive. It just has really nothing architecturally going for it. When I first looked at the elevation, obviously it looks more massive than what's there. But when you see the way it's set in that neighborhood and everything, that's really not an issue. And staff pointed that out. So it's a very nice job.
Thank you.
So, having said that, don't think we have a lot of direction there. I didn't look at the resolution yet.
There's only one recommended condition. It's just that the volume study be completed before final.
Okay, all right.
And we can include a recommendation regarding colors if you'd like.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion, Commissioner Lehman?
Sure.
Okay.
I make a motion for approval of DS 21-274 Hermie Collins. Is that the way you pronounce it, Claudia?
Yeah.
Consideration of a concept design study for the partial demolition and 174 square foot net addition to an existing 1,395 square foot one-story residence with a 230 square foot detached garage, including the construction of a new 361 square foot second story located at the southwest corner of San Carlos Street and 8th Avenue in the R1 district, along with the special condition of, sorry.
There's just the one special condition, and you want to add the special condition.
Right, the special
color?
condition about to find a softer tone rather than a stark white for the stucco. And I guess we'll see you next month.
Okay, we have a motion for the resolution as presented by staff with additional special condition that the applicant will present not a stark white. Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, resolution is carried. Thank you. I neglected to provide the opportunity for announcements when I was first going through the agenda. So at this time, if there are any announcements from the staff or the commissioners or the public, they can make them at this time.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I apologize. We still do need to dispense with item number
I'm sorry,
9.
you're right. Yeah, we've got
which is a continuance. So it was noticed, and so we need to convene it, take public comment on the continuance, and get a vote on the continuance as well.
But we don't need to do that with number 8.
Escobedo. I'm sorry. No, Escobedo
it's
is
Escobedo, right?
Yeah, no. Number 9 is
Number
Kolsch.
9
That
we
was
go-
being. So we actually still have one more item to
All right,
to take care of.
Okay, item number 9 was pulled from the agenda because they didn't make the I think the staking and flagging date timeline. Is that correct?
The story poles are required to be certified for accuracy. They were not able to get that certification complete in time.
Okay, so all we need is a motion to continue this. I'll make a motion that we continue this item. Do we need to make a date certain, or we just leave it at the applicant's?
I would recommend continuing the item because they still have to get the certification in.
Okay,
We recommend continuing to a date certain of the December hearing.
Okay, we'll recommend, so I'll make a motion that we continue this item to the December hearing.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Yes, Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke? Commissioner Locke, you're muted.
Yes, sorry, I had
Chair
muted
LePage.
before I finished speaking.
Yes, okay, the motion to continue DS 21-233 is carried. Okay, so now, if anyone wants to make any announcements, which I kind of plowed through in the beginning and didn't went over, if anyone wants to make announcements, this would be the time to do it.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm going to interrupt again. You're going to kill me by the time this night is over.
You are just really on me tonight, aren't you?
I know, I'm so sorry. We also need to process Escobedo as well. We haven't even heard that item yet. Yeah, that's number 8. So number 8 on your agenda is Escobedo. We did number 7, which is Hermel Collins. Number 8 is a public hearing.
Brandon, number 8, Escobedo was the one that failed to get the story poles certified. The last
Oh,
one,
okay, I apologize.
yeah,
That's the one we
the
just
last one,
continued.
Kolsch, they requested the continuance.
That's the continuance. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I will not do that anymore tonight.
So it's all right. So, but number 9, we don't need to continue that because that wasn't public notice, or it was public notice it was continued. So we
It
don't
was
have-
it was noticed.
Yeah, okay.
And so
we're
you still have to take a vote on it.
Oh, we still have to
Yeah,
take.
you
a
still
vote.
do.
Okay, so we have to do number 9 too.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'll just for sake of brevity, I'll make a motion, we continue design study 21-264, the closed project.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Lehman?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Now you can make the announcements. No announcements, Brandon?
I'll make mine during the director's report. The announcements are for
Okay,
the other
all right.
for the commissioners. If any commissioners have announcements that they'd like to make.
I have a question.
We have a hand. Okay, Commissioner
Sorry.
Lehman, go ahead.
In this accostation, or when the neighbors really came, a couple of the neighbors really came after me about this house on Torrey's. One of the things that is really bugging them is that there's an electric gate. And we've been denying electric gates. It's got a keypad on the front of the fence. Now, it's not imposing because it's just part of the fence, and it's only 4 foot high. And it's that something that I believe we've denied 2. We denied one on the Stoker recently on the Stoker-Allaire project that they're building, and then we denied another one on North Camino Real or North.
Yeah, it's on Camino. It's on my block between Ocean and 4th and Camino.
Right. Which apparently I now have problems with my iPhone because the guy we denied is a big deal at Verizon. So.
Did you want to put that on the agenda for next month for discussion, or?
Yeah, Commissioner Lehman, I guess we're looking for announcements. I don't know, is this tied to an item earlier that the commission already decided on, or are you looking for discussion on electric gates in the future?
I'm looking for a discussion as to whether we really have this in our guidelines and why are we denying them if we don't? Okay. Or we should put them in our guidelines. If we
Specific
don't
to
want
electric gates.
Electric gates.
Okay.
Now, I know we wouldn't want them 6 feet high or 8 feet high because we don't want anyone, I mean, we've already had that constitutes a fence that's too high.
I would counsel you to not opine too much on what we would or wouldn't want as a city. If you want to bring it back in the future as an item, we can do that and agendize it so people who want to talk about it can be part of the conversation.
Okay.
Okay, would you, because I tend to agree that gates in general are not really clearly addressed in our guidelines. So I don't know that it's just electric gates, but I feel sometimes we're operating with pretty thin guidelines.
If the commission wants, we can bring back a general gate discussion to talk about as a sort of like a policy. You know, we can tell you what the code says, and then the commission obviously has, you know, part of your purview is to set policy direction with respect to the planning and zoning code. So we can bring back a discussion about what has been done in the past, what the code says, and then the commission can come to a consensus if you'd like.
Is that something the commissioners would like? Just raise your hand.
I'd mostly like to know if it's in our code, if it's in our guidelines.
Yeah, we'll bring it back as a discussion item, and then we can that way we can discuss it in a public hearing and get some input from the public about the gates and so forth. Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lehman. Okay, the director's report.
Assuming there's no other planning commissioners, and Commissioner LePage, feel free to interrupt me multiple times during the director's report. If you so wish, you definitely earned it tonight. I'm sorry for the multiple interruptions.
Hey, back to hell.
Yeah, one quick exciting update. I want to let the commission know that last week I turned over the first banker's box of our historic property files here in City Hall to our scanning contractor. So we're running one box, which represents like 12 files. We're running one box through the entire cycle, scanning, getting digitally into our Laserfiche online file, and then the GIS team pulling it out of that and putting it on our map. So within 2 weeks, I should have 12 lots on our GIS map on our website where you can click and see the files. So I'm really excited about that. So this is a test phase, one box, assuming we work out all the kinks, which I think we will, and make sure we understand the naming conventions and everything. We'll start full production, which is 24 boxes every 2 months. And just do that for the 1.5 to 2 years that it's going to take to do. So it's really exciting. We're really, really excited about that. And it's going to be a great benefit to the public and to the commissioners and to staff, just in general. So I'm really, really excited about that. I want to let you know that the sign ordinance was adopted by the City Council on the 2nd of November. They did their second reading and they adopted as is. One thing to note is that because it's in Chapter 17, we do have to process an LCP amendment through the Coastal Commission. So I'll be putting that package together. It will go to the Coastal Commission hopefully in the next couple months. If they approve it, accept it, adopt it as is, it's effective immediately. We don't have to wait the 30 days that you normally do for ordinances because it's already gone that period. And as long as the Coastal Commission accepts it as is, it's effective immediately. So I'll keep you posted on that. I'd like to take a quick second to introduce you to, I got a couple employee things to deal with. Our newest planner, Saray Nathan, who was on the call, and I asked him to put on his camera. Hi, Saray. So you guys could all meet him, quote unquote. Soon enough, we are talking right now in the beginning of next year, January, February timeline of getting back to in-person meetings. They may still be the hybrid meetings. They may be at an alternate site so we can have more space. But I'm hopeful at that point that you guys will actually get a chance to meet Saray in person. He's a wonderful young man. Is joining us from the LA area. He's got a really interesting, cool background personally in filmmaking. So when you get a chance to talk to him about that, it's really interesting to speak with him. But he also does have a degree in community and urban planning. So, Saray, you just want to say hi, everyone, real quick and introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, thank you, commissioners. Brian and I actually met them.
Oh,
except
okay,
I had
well,
the
there you
mask on, so they probably didn't see me very well. But I met them and we.
Oh, that's right, the site tour. Thank you.
Yeah, but I would definitely like to get to know them more and talk to them. And yeah, as Brandon said, I came from LA, was there for LA City, but because LA is, as you imagine, so big, I was actually working on the community plan aspect of it, and specifically the Hollywood community plan, and on the update they were doing. So this is really interesting because I'm getting to do all kinds of different things. And so I'm really excited about being here and you know, participating in doing different the whole spectrum of planning here. And thank you.
We're very excited to have you here. And Saray, tell the commissioners how many planners you guys had in the city of LA.
I think they have about 220.
Oh my God.
Plus, yeah.
Just for reference, we have 3. So. Not that we're only 1 square mile. LA is much bigger, but it's always mind-boggling when you hear about large jurisdictions.
Less than 50 in the entire Monterey County. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. I don't want to hear any complaints from you, Brandon, about your overwork.
I'm not complaining.
Welcome, Saray.
Yeah, we're very excited.
I do want to congratulate, may I say congratulations to Evan and welcome, Saray. It was nice. We did meet together today previously, but Evan really did a mountain of work. He seemed to have the bulk of the projects, and it's really, you know, I think that and a baby that probably cries during the night is really a lot of work.
Yeah, we ask a lot of our planners here because we are small but mighty, and so, you know, Evan and Marnie, it seems like they're taking turns back and forth between planning commissions right now. One commission, Marnie has a bunch, and then the next one Evan does. So we're excited. All excited to share the wealth with Saray as he joins our team and gets his feet under him. He already has projects that have been assigned to him. We're training by doing, and I think that's going to help move things along even faster around here.
Yeah,
And
One
then
more
a couple.
question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Gail.
Is the pit coming back?
Is the pit coming back?
Yeah.
It will be, yes. Yes, we have not received an official resubmission yet, but I imagine that's coming very soon from what I understand. And so then I have two more employee things to mention. One is Jamel Laurie, who is our building official. He just passed 5 years. So we're doing service awards this time of year and service recognition. So Jamel has been with us 5 years. He's a great story of grow your own. Started as a building inspector, worked his way up, and now he's our building official for the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea. He's gotten all the certificates and everything he needs to do that job. So we're really proud of him. And then the big news is here actually on our call right now, Margie Parati this year passed 30 years with the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea.
Wow.
And Margie, why don't you turn your camera on real quick and just say hi. The wonderful thing about Margie is having someone who's been here 30 years, she basically knows where all the skeletons are hidden in a good way, meaning that, when we need institutional knowledge or we want to, talk about how something happened in another department, Margie, if she doesn't know herself, she kind of knows what path we can go for and where we can look for things. So we're really lucky to have Margie on board, someone who is, stayed with the organization. That's a testament to what it is to work in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea and take ownership of your job and really grasp it. So we really appreciate Margie's 30 years. And Margie, you want to talk about how wonderful 30 years has been with the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea?
What's that saying? The road goes on forever and the party never ends. That's all I got to say.
So congratulations to Margie and Jamel. We've got some pretty amazing employees here in the department. We've got a new one in Saray. As you mentioned, Evan does a great job. Marnie's always on top of it. And of course, Margie as well. So thanks to all my staff. And that's all I have unless the commissioners have a question for me.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, okay.
It's good.
Well, thank you, everyone. Once again, I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
And Veterans Day.
Thank you. Actually, Commissioner Locke, that's a great update. Just Veterans Day tomorrow, actually, at the Arch. Happy Veterans Day to everyone.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Take care.